Here's Tony La Russa's starting lineup. We have 2 switch hitting in the 1-2 slot. Myself, John Cangelosi, leading off playing center field. We have Tollison, third base, batting in the 2nd slot. Harold Baines is going to be playing right field. Came for us last night with 2 clutch hits, 2 home runs. We have Ron Kittle batting in the DH slot. Carlton Fisk in left field doing a hell of a job this year. We have Bobby Bonilla playing first base, backing up Craig Walker, and is doing an outstanding job. We have Ozzie Guillen playing shortstop, and we have Cruz playing second base, which a man I admire very much. Welcome back to the lineup, Cruz. And we have Joel Skinner catching, and we have Floyd Bannister chucking on the hill for us today. And I want y'all to sit back and enjoy it. And I just want to say hello to the family back home in Hialeah, Florida. See you later.
I'll say one thing, Bob. He picked up your banter from the Toledo Mudhens chucking on the hill today. All right, a man you can almost look down to, but he's 5'8". Where's L.B. Pearson when you need him? Larry Herndon, Chet Lemon, Brian Harper, the new acquisition in right field. Darnell Coles, Alan Trammell, the shoulder appears to be okay now. Tom Brookins as Whitaker gets a rest. Dave Engel starting his 3rd ball game at first base. Parrish behind the plate, and sinker baller Walt Terrell on the mound for Sparky Anderson.
There you see Terrell's record. His only loss was Bannister's only win. He was hit very hard on April 16th at Chicago. Lasted just an inning and 2/3, 9 hits and 7 runs. Bannister was the winner in an eventual 10-4 White Sox victory. Last year, Terrell threw 3 shutouts and was involved in 2 others where he didn't go the distance. So when he's sharp, when he has that slider and especially the sinker, which is his out pitch going, he can be tough.
He has pitched very well since they got him from the Mets. This thick grass here, Tiger Stadium, with that sinker ball. He'll throw a pound ball, and he'll mix in a knuckleball on occasion. He's 9-2, Bob, in Tiger Stadium.
Pitched well against the White Sox a year ago, beat them twice without a defeat, and his ERA against them was 2.3. For the season in 1985, his ERA was 2.86, among the American League leaders. They got him from the Mets for third baseman Howard Johnson. The Mets, of course, with tremendous pitching depth, so they could afford to make that deal. Johnson now not playing as often as he might have expected with the Mets, because Ray Knight is off to that great start with 6 home runs, and they had all but written Knight off. They were shopping him around baseball, couldn't find any takers.
Ray Knight's going to have to work harder with his and Nancy house being robbed. He's going to have to make more dough fast. Today's umpires: Rich Garcia, Greg Kosk, Rick Reed at second base, Dale Ford at third base. Boy, if there have been the home runs hit in this ballpark. 6 games here, 19 home runs already hit in Tiger Stadium. More hits here last year than any park in the major leagues. So Walt Terrell better keep it down early.
There were 201 hit here a year ago, most in the majors, as you said. At the present pace, it projects to 257. Cangelosi hitting 239, but he has 15 walks. Drags a bunt, and he can really scoot. Terrell makes the play. Dave Engel at first base today. Darrell Evans sitting against the left-handed pitcher. Engel, the former Twin, who can catch, and they can also use him at a DH spot.
Walt Terrell shows wonderful composure, not hitting the runner. He throws to the inside of the bag, where Engel sets up in fair territory. Cangelosi was trying to get Engel to leave first base and beat Terrell to the bag, but he didn't get it far enough to the right of Engel.
Tollison came over from Texas in a deal which sent Scott Fletcher to the Rangers. Upped his average 100 points last year. 213 in 84, 313 last year. Terrell again. 2 pitches, 2 assists for Terrell.
Walt Terrell, who pitched for a former teammate of mine, Steve Hamilton, fine left-handed reliever, learned to keep the ball down, sink it. Morehead State Teachers College in Kentucky. It's when he pitches best is when he keeps the ball right down at the knees. He'll get a lot of outs, Bob, on balls between the knees and the ankles. Actually bad pitches, but it sinks, so it's hard to lay off.
Here's Baines, 2 homers among his 3 hits last night. He's been on fire this week with 4 home runs after a very slow start, which is typical of him. He had an 0 for 20 stretch earlier in the season. In the air to left, Herndon glides back. A 1-2-3 first for Terrell. After half an inning at Tiger Stadium in Detroit, the White Sox nothing, and the Tigers coming up. Sparky Anderson's lineup. Alan Trammell leads off at shortstop. Darnell Coles over from the Mariners plays third base. Larry Herndon in left field. Lance Parrish, the cleanup man and catcher. Chet Lemon in center field. Brian Harper plays his first game for the Tigers. The Cardinals cut him loose. Tigers picked him up. Dave Engel at first base. Tom Brookins plays second base. Lou Whitaker has been benched against some left-handers, and this being a day game after a night game, might be a good time for Sparky to give him an early rest. And Dave Collins, the switch hitter, drops to the ninth spot. He's been leading off against right-handers with Trammell hitting ninth, and Trammell takes the leadoff spot against the Southpaws. Bannister off to a 1-2 start. His early ERA 3.32. Tollison at third, Guillen at short. Julio Cruz his first start at second. Trammell lifts the first pitch to center field, and Cangelosi is there. One out. Cangelosi is flanked by Fisk in left and Baines in right. Bobby Bonilla is the first baseman, and Joel Skinner, an excellent young receiver, behind the plate.
Ozzie Guillen, the shortstop. Outstanding cover the White Sox have with Luke Appling, Luis Aparicio, two Hall of Famers, and Guillen on the cover with them. He made 12 errors last year. The enigmatic Floyd Bannister. He comes out of the bullpen so many times. Art Kushner, the bullpen coach, says, many times I catch him, I say he's got no it stuff going to the mound. He'll give you 4 innings sometimes and just blow people away, and then all of a sudden it seems to disappear. Good fastball, outstanding curve. Some feel he's too much of a perfectionist. Wants every pitch to be just perfect, right on the black.
Others say he won't pitch inside enough. Although don't tell that to Dave Collins, who was hit by a pitch at Comiskey Park earlier this year and stormed the mound.
Darnell Coles, a man that Sparky Anderson feels someday is going to make an outstanding number 5 hitter behind Kurt Gibson. He has power the opposite way, hit the ball in the right field corner with the bases loaded last night. Rifle-like arm. They've been looking for that third baseman with a little bit of pop around here for a long, long time.
Line drive, base hit, the game's first. Coles runs pretty well. Fisk fires into second base. Now, one thing you know you're getting in the outfield with Fisk, although he doesn't cover a lot of ground and he's still getting acclimated to the position, he possesses a better-than-average throwing arm, obviously.
It's interesting watching Pudge Fisk play left field last night. He did something that very few left and right fielders do. You see it in the middle of the diamond. He was moving on the count, on the situation, and before the ball left the bat many times, he was in motion, which is easy to do in the middle of the diamond, so he's already acclimated himself to getting a good jump on the ball and playing situations.
Herndon hitting .326 so far, looking for his first homer, has 3 RBIs. Coles at first with 1 out, off-speed pitch low.
A team that does not have a whole lot of running speed. Coles does not have a lot of quickness. Sparky Anderson would like to add that added dimension this year. He said that it seemed the only time we scored runs last year is when we had home runs. We've got to move some runners.
A ball and a strike. We mentioned what a homer haven this park is. Bannister is susceptible. In 3 of the last 4 seasons, he's allowed better than 30 home runs. One pitch. 2-1.
Bannister with the 4 basic pitches. He can do a couple of different things. The appeal goes down to first base umpire Greg Kosk, gives the safe sign. A couple things with his fastball. He can run it once in a while, sink it. He can cut it on the right-hander's fist. Outstanding curveball when he has control of it. Slider on occasion, and a good straight change. You say, why is he less than 500 in the American League? Who knows?
With stuff like his, it's amazing that he pitched only 1 shutout all of last year. It was against Detroit. .10-14 a year ago with an ERA of almost 5.
Herndon up until 2 strikes, which is what it is now, 2-2. Try to take a couple of shots between Cruz and Bonilla. Second and first baseman with that gap.
The 2-2. Again, the off-speed breaking ball, and it's grounded foul.
You're going to see one of the bright young catchers in the game behind the plate today for Tony La Russa. Bob Skinner's son. Bob, of course, with Chuck Tanner. Now the batting instructor, along with Willie Stargell, down with the Atlanta Braves. Skinner, Jeff Herron from Toronto, outstanding young catcher. If Skinner hits, he's going to be around a long time.
Back through the box, Cruz fields. They get the force and the double play. A slow roller, but Herndon didn't get out of the box very quickly, and they turned it over 4-6-3. No runs, a hit. As a result of the DP, nobody left. No score after 1. Will he see a ninth? That's the question around Chicago. Only Sparky Anderson has longer tenure in the American League with the same club than La Russa. Only Tommy Lasorda in the National League. He's regarded by most as a good manager, but the manager pays the price when a team stumbles, and this team has had its troubles.
I think Tony's improved every year that he's managed. There was a time when people thought he was a little bit too feisty. He was in hot water with Ralph Houck and Sparky Anderson, Doug Rader when he was at Texas. Now he's his third base coach. But his work ethic and his habits and his analytical mind, being an attorney, really have improving. He studies the game. He understands his players. It'd be a tough decision, and Hawk knows it. But that's the nature of the game, unfortunately, that when the team goes badly, the manager becomes a scapegoat.
And the speculation increases because of a couple of big names temporarily out of work. Billy Martin and Dick Williams. Kittle, the DH. A strike to him. Kittle has had 49 at-bats with 18 strikeouts and 1 walk.
Big base hit driving home 2 in yesterday's ball game. Pinch hit.
One and one. You know, when you talk about sluggers, I often think the strikeout stat is overrated. It's all right if a big swinger strikes out 100 times a year if he can walk 75 or 80. But this ratio is ridiculous. 1-1 pitch. Dropped down and a swing and a miss.
One of the things Hawk Harrelson has done is he's brought in a new hitting instructor. Of course, the late Charlie Lau did so much for this ball club and all of his theories, but now they've got Willie Horton. The Hawk said he is our power hitting coach. He felt that Charlie Lau's theories applied more to line drive hitters. Don't tell that to George Brett, though, folks. And Mattingly, who applied those theories of Charlie Lau. So Horton has worked a little bit with Kittle. Appears to have him up on the plate a little bit more, about 6 to 8 inches.
Terrell's 2-2 pitch. Full count to Kittle, leading off in the second.
There's the palm ball from Walt Terrell.
The Cardinals have lost, 5 in a row, and the Mets are on the verge of winning their 3rd straight from them. 4-0 first inning lead. Gooden shut him out last night. Kittle goes around and strikes out for the 19th time this season in 50 at-bats.
Talking to Billy Muffett, the Tigers pitching coach, he says many times you can't tell Walt Terrell's slider, which goes down at the end, from his palm ball. I believe that was a palm ball, not quite as hard as the slider. You can see the deceptive motion. It rolls actually off the thumb as you flip the fingers up, and it gets a downward spin, and it drops off the table when thrown correctly low in the strike zone.
Fisk, a 10-time All-Star, has always been more than just a good player. You might say he was almost an elegant performer as a catcher and throughout his career, now at age 38. Grounded foul, and I think maybe for that reason as much as any other, he had his misgivings about moving to left field. A guy who has been such a stylish player doesn't want to look foolish as he approaches the end of his career.
Well, he and Tony La Russa have had understandings about a lot of different things. Remember when he wanted to be moved down in the lineup from the 6th spot? Pennant winning year, or the half a pennant. He moved to the 2nd spot and caught fire. He carried this ball club a little bit last year for the first 4.5 months. You know, right here, you could get some debate on it, but Pudge Fisk and a Ted Simmons, you're looking at offensive stats and being catchers that are Hall of Fame material after they retire.
Off-speed pitch is lined through the middle for a base hit. I think Fisk has a better claim than Simmons, with all due respect to Ted, because Fisk was also an outstanding receiver, and Simmons generally regarded as an average defensive catcher.
Simmons also at 300, 7 years or something, and really there's more to catching than just throwing a baseball. Pitching patterns and series and handling of pitchers and leadership, things that don't show up in numbers.
Switch hitter Bobby Bonilla doesn't have a homer, but looking at him, you figure he's going to hit his share. Strike call.
And you cannot take Pudge Fisk for granted down at first base. If he catches you napping and he gets the rhythm of your pitches where you get to looking one time and going home, he will time your delivery and take off. He has stolen over 100 bases in his career. How many catchers have done that?
Very, very few. And I think he's the only one in the last 30 or 40 years to have done it. He stole 17 last year, equaling a career high.
Bobby Bonilla, the switch hitter, 1 of 4 in the lineup today, will try 1 out. He was trying up until 2 strikes to pull that ball through the hole. Terrell running it away. Sid Thrift, the new general manager who runs the Pittsburgh Pirates, was sad to see Bonilla drafted off that Pirates roster. He's got some talent. He can run. He's got a little power. He's a switch hitter.
Engel makes the play to second. There's one. They throw on, and over Engel's head and into the dugout. And Bonilla will wind up at second base.
It's interesting. Alan Trammell was too polite at shortstop. He had a chance to really low bridge Pudge Fisk. When he saw Pudge coming, he threw over the top to avoid hitting Fisk, I believe, and the throw ran wild over the head of the first baseman. Watch Fisk. Engel, new to the position. Now look at this. Fisk does not slide, which was a bad mistake. He could have gotten conked right between the eyes, and Alan Trammell was too polite to the veteran Fisk. He threw over the top of him and got an air for it.
Whether it's related to his shoulder problems or not, Trammell has committed 6 errors now this year. He had only 15 all of last year and just 10 in 1984.
Fisk must not have known that throw was coming from Engel. He came in standing up, and he could have gotten zonked badly, if not for Trammell throwing the ball over his head.
Here's the guy who led American League shortstops in fielding last year. Just 12 errors as a rookie, Ozzie Guillen. And he improved with the bat as the season went along, 308 after the All-Star break. 1-1. The comparison is not perfect because of different playing conditions, but the White Sox have had other outstanding defensive shortstops in their history. Guillen, as a rookie, made 12 errors. Luke Appling, in his first year, made 42. Chico Carrascal made 25. Luis Aparicio made 35.
Guillen does not have the running speed of a Luis Aparicio, but his instincts are outstanding. The bat in his hand as a base runner defensively. Tom Seaver just marveled at Guillen the first time he saw him in spring training. He went to Tony La Russa and Eddie Brinkman. Said, don't change his defensive habits. He knows how to move for situations.
Engel with another chance. Goes to the bag himself and beats Guillen. So for the White Sox in the second, no runs, a Fisk base hit, and a man is left. We'll be back. Sparky Anderson, true to his word, has really shaken things up so far this year with the Tigers, including benching Darrell Evans and Lou Whitaker against some left-handers, as is the case today. Lance Parrish against Bannister in the bottom of the second. Low for a ball. Parrish has a couple of homers, although he's hitting just 164, and his back has bothered him again this year. He's missed a couple of games because of it. Popped up on the right side and foul ground Bonilla and Skinner. Bonilla calls him off and takes it.
And Bob, with all of Sparky Anderson's lineup change, it is not simply that he wants to platoon, although Whitaker the last 2 years surprisingly has been in the low 200s against left-handed pitchers, something that's really been a problem to Sparky. 83, 82, he was up around 300 against left-handers. Sparky really wants to keep the troops fresh also over the 162-game haul. You know, some of them have had a lot of wear and tear over the last couple of years.
Center fielder Chet Lemon. It's a strike. Not only is Tiger Stadium one of the great old parks, there is no better broadcast booth anywhere. You got to be alive back here. We're close enough to hear conversations at the plate.
We will try to edit some of them for you.
The 0-1. Off the outside edge.
Sometimes you wish you had that 7-second delay like you got on your radio show out of St. Louis, huh?
That's for the callers, not for me, of course. 2-1. Bannister is 30 years old, from Pierre, South Dakota. Signed him as a free agent prior to the '83 season after his contract with the Mariners ran out. Ripped to short. Guillen unloads and gets him.
Ozzie plays a shallower shortstop than most. He does not have a strong arm. Similar to Ozzie Smith, the St. Louis Cardinals, especially now that Ozzie Smith has that rotator cuff problem. But Guillen, one of those guys who always just seems to get it. He throws as hard as he has to.
Speaking of the Cardinals, if circumstances had been slightly different, Brian Harper might be a minor baseball hero at this point. Game 6, last fall at Kansas City. Scoreless duel between Danny Cox and Charlie Leibrandt. Harper comes up as a pinch hitter. Little flare into center field for an RBI single. And a bullet that's caught by Tolleson. The Cardinals had a 1-0 lead. They'd never blown a lead in the 9th inning all year long. And we know about the Denkinger call and the Royal rally to win that game 2-1 and the series the following night. Back after this. The Rooster, Doug Rader at third. Ed Brinkman, the coach, at first for Tony La Russa. It was Rader who gave the White Sox their rallying cry during the division championship season of 1983. He said, these guys will not last. This is when Rader was managing the Rangers. They're winning too many ugly games. They're not a classic team. So winning ugly became the rallying cry around Comiskey Park.
It was actually attributed to Rader, but it was said by Darrell Johnson, who was an advance scout for the Rangers. He said it first. Rader picked it up. It's a coincidence that good shortstops follow Eddie Brinkman around. Set that major league record. He had Trammell and Whitaker at Montgomery when he was a Tiger manager. Now he's got Ozzie Guillen, one of his pupils with the White Sox.
Julio Cruz, first regular season at bat. He had .359 in spring training, then injured a calf and had to go on the disabled list. One of 4 switch hitters in the lineup today for the White Sox. They have 7 switch hitters on their roster, including Brian Little, Jerry Hairston, and Rodney Craig on the bench today.
It's more than any other team with switch hitting regulars or position players. Cardinals have 7, but Tudor is the 7th one, isn't he? Pitcher.
6 regular players and Tudor the pitcher. Of course, had they kept Andujar, Joaquin switch hit irregularly according to his whim. 1-1 pitch. Speaking of Andujar, he pitches for the A's today against a former Tiger mainstay, Milt Wilcox, for the Mariners. Wilcox off to an 0-3 start with Seattle. And Andujar struggling a bit with his new team, Oakland.
See where he said first time he saw Hubert H. Humphrey Dome, he wants to be a DH. He said, I could hit 15 home runs in this ballpark. He said, Jack Clark could hit 100. Palm ball. See the fingers fly up on a 1-2 count.
Joaquin evidently not a statistical maven. 2-2. Change is low and away. You know, in contrast to Bannister, who has had his problems giving up the home run, Terrell, despite pitching in this ballpark, yields very few. He walks Cruz to open the inning, and he's not going anywhere beyond first base as Parrish chases it back to the screen. Terrell, of course, featuring that sinker ball, despite pitching in this park, allowed fewer home runs per batter faced than anyone in the American League last year, with the exception of the Royals' Danny Jackson. Jackson, on the other hand, pitched in the park where the fewest home runs were hit in the American League.
Well, many teams, if they have them, will stack left-handed hitters against Terrell. But even the left-handed hitters who are good low ball hitters have trouble lifting that sinker when he's got it down at the knees. Interesting to see Cruz coming off the disabled list yesterday with a pulled calf muscle. Has had some knee surgery. If he will be able to run today. He does.
On the
found
first
out
pitch.
Quickly. One thing Harrelson wants to do with his ball club, they've moved home plate back 8 feet, Comiskey Park. Cleveland 3, Yankees nothing. John Montefusco started that ball game. Some thought he may never pitch again with that degenerative hip condition. That's the first inning.
At first, Ed Whitson was penciled in for that game as Lou Piniella decided to start him at Yankee Stadium, junking the original plan of only using him on the road. Whitson unable to cope with the jeers at Yankee Stadium.
Like I said a moment ago, Hawk Harrelson trying to infuse a little more speed into this White Sox lineup, get a better defense and more of a running game. If
Skinner can hit 230, 240, they will be satisfied. He's that good a receiver. La Russa says he has that instinctive feel, that knack of how to call a game, how to run a game. And he thinks it will improve as he becomes more comfortable in the major leagues. Occasionally he's had to prod him to take control and assert himself out there, but that will come with time.
Say one thing, he's got a lot of teachers. Mo Drabowski is the bullpen pitching coach. Dave Duncan, the pitching coach. Don Drysdale, the Hall of Famer, is a pitching consultant. So they all tell him the same thing about series of pitches and handling pitching. He'll be okay. It could be confusing to some youngsters.
Did too many cooks spoil the broth?
I think Hawk's philosophy in theory is a good one. And it's going to take a couple of years before all the coaches and all the managers in their organization become acclimatized to the same system. Could be confusing early, but I think it's a good idea in the long run.
Out of play, and it holds at 1-2. Cruz, who drew a walk, is at first with nobody out. Top of the third, no score. Cruz is 31 now. In a stretch beginning in 1978 with Seattle, he stole between 43 and 59 bases 5 consecutive seasons. His totals have dropped since then. Two and two. Talking about that college of coaches that Harrelson put together. They included people like Dick Allen, Rico Petrocelli, at least in spring training, Jose Cardinal. Tom Haller is managing at the AA level for him. He's used Bob Bailey, and his quote on that was, "I want guys with presence." He believes that young players respond better, pay closer attention to people they know have had substantial big league careers. A called third strike, and Skinner is gone.
Great example of Terrell, the veteran pitcher, and Parrish, the catcher, setting up the kid. The 1-ball, 2-strike pitch was a high inside fastball out of the strike zone, which just sent a little note to Skinner to set up the low outside sinker. Aside from presence, Kenny Harrelson is hiring all people for all the managerial and coaching jobs in the minor league who played in the major leagues. He felt that kids will be more inclined to listen to those who had major league experience, and that's why he's got people like Duke Sims at Appleton and other places like that.
Cangelosi tried to bunt on the game's first pitch, and Terrell threw him out. Coles is in on the grass at third. A called strike.
Saw Cangelosi at Appleton a few years ago. He stole over 80 bases.
He's stolen 9 this year.
He's been switch hitting since he was a kid. Back in Brooklyn, he was born and then raised in Miami. It was part of the way we grew up, playing wiffle ball, sponge ball as they call it. So we all switch it in the neighborhood.
You know why? Because if you play wiffle ball, you've got to assume the exact batting order of your favorite team. So if he was Tony Kubek, I'm assuming he rooted for the Yankees. He hit left-handed. Hector Lopez assumed that closed stance and bat from the right side. Those are the rules of the game.
Well, you don't have to do it. I mean, you have a choice.
If you don't, you're a wimp. 1-1 with 1 out and 1 on. Top of the third.
You may see some base movement very shortly.
Not going. Low for a ball.
Now the ideal count. 1 out, 2-1. A bat control guy left-handed. Parrish will have to throw over the top. Some speed on first base. Guy who's not a big strikeout man, Terrell. Everything seems to be in favor of starting a runner. Very important for both Trammell and Brookins at second to hold their position as long as they can so they don't leave a hole vacated. Chances are you're going to get a ground ball off the bat if he's moving.
Bluffs the go, and Cangelosi slaps it over the head of Coles. Cruz will have to stop at second.
Cruz started, false start, and then Terrell held the ball just a little bit. He stopped, and then he started in motion again. Cangelosi trying to go with a sinker ball. The ball up in the strike zone. One of the few pitches so far this game that Terrell has had above the belt.
Harrelson talking about those people with presence he likes to have around him. I remarked to the Hawk last night, here's Cangelosi, a rookie, and he already exudes presence, has a cockiness about him. And Hawk says, I guess so. That's what people have told me. but I haven't spoken more than 2 sentences to it. This one is chopped toward short. Trammell underhands to Brookins and on to first, safe. Tollison beat it. Runners at the corners with 2 outs. Harrelson said he didn't want to speak to Cangelosi because he didn't want to break the spell. He'd had such a good spring and opening to the season. Hawk is just keeping his distance.
Trammell tried to get out of the ball a little more quickly and get the short hop. Like Alan Trammell, since he's had a little shoulder problem, it hasn't bothered him for a week or 10 days. He's tried to cheat and play a little bit shorter, get the balls quicker to try and shorten his throws. It's tough to turn a double play on guys like Tollison, especially on this grass. It is so tall and so thick.
First and third with 2 out, and Baines at the plate. Ball 1 to him.
The man who's getting hot that you'd like to pitch around after his 2 home runs yesterday. The man on first base, Terrell knows. Baines a good low ball hitter.
Somebody said of Baines, he's a Teddy Roosevelt guy. He speaks softly and he carries a very big stick. He is such a soft-spoken guy. This is the second of his 2 home runs. It turned out to be the game winner into the second deck here last night.
The second deck
trailed 7-2, 197.
Second deck in right field is so attractive here. That overhang. You don't have to hit a ball more than 325 feet to get it out of here.
Engel handles the chopper, steps on the bag, and they're out of the inning. No runs, a hit, a walk, and a couple are left. After 2.5, still no score.
This is Marv Albert in New York. Up at Yankee Stadium, Bob Shirley replaced the ailing Ed Whitson, who was supposed to start at home for the Yankees today, but Shirley was knocked out in the first by the Indians. Pat Tabler with his 2-run double. Indians over the Yanks 3-0 in the bottom of the first. Back to Bob and Tony.
See the way Winfield played that ball? That wasn't typical of him.
He looked like he was going to hurt that leg, didn't he? The way he braced against that right center field fence. Say one thing, if Winfield doesn't get it, nobody will.
Engel, Brookins, and Collins in the bottom of the third. Strike 1 from Bannister. We have no score, and 1-1 the count. Engel had a good year with the Twins in 1984 and then went right down the chute a year ago.
Well, he had a little bit of a mental block when he was catching, throwing the ball back to the pitcher.
And a base hit to open the third.
It's incredible at Engel, and you've probably heard the story before. Almost completely blind in one eye from a childhood accident. I believe his younger brother shoved a burr into his eye. Some damage to the eye that never came back. He's a guy that hit 300 one year, and you wonder how. You wonder how he could even catch. He had trouble when he played the outfield for the Twins with the lights because of that eye condition. It's quite a story.
Brookins has had 12 at-bats so far this year with 4 hits.
Good hit and run man right here.
High for a ball. Brookins, a valuable guy, especially now with the 24-man roster. Can play third base, second base. They've even DH'd him on occasion. How good is Bannister's move?
That wasn't his best one, but I don't think he has an outstanding one. Many base stealers will tell you to watch the head movement first. The old Maury Wills theory. If he's looking home, he's coming to first. If he's looking to first, he's coming home. You can see Bannister trying to disguise that, looking about halfway between first base and home plate, trying to disguise the move. Some others say, the base stealer from a left-handed pitcher, look at the V in their upper thighs. If it's spread open, he's going home. If it's tight, he's coming to first base.
The 1-1. A lot of off-speed stuff early from Bannister in this game.
He's pulled the string on a lot of curveballs. Sometimes the pitcher will come out of the bullpen and not have the good fastball and will use the other stuff to get by until the fastball comes along and he gets in sync.
This time the fastball foul back. Dave Collins is on deck, so he and Bannister will shortly renew their acquaintance. An eventful early season for Collins, who's now with his 7th major league team, having come over from the A's during the offseason. 2-2. Got into it with Bannister at Comiskey. Nipper threw close up at Fenway Park. Collins exchanged angry words with Nipper, and Nipper said, hey, if he objects to this, why doesn't he go get himself a dress? And there's more to that story. Full count. Dave LaPointe, a noted prankster, former Cardinal and most recently with the Giants, now with the Tigers, bought a blue and white dress up in Boston and hung it in Collins' locker. Collins obliged by modeling it for his teammates. The 3-2 pitch, runner not going, and it's popped up. Cruz back, Cangellosi in. It's Cangellosi in shallow center.
Cangellosi, a very aggressive young center fielder. Funny story about Cangellosi. He started last season in the Mexican League, was a non-roster invite to spring training by Hawk Harrelson. He had a good spring and made the ball club.
Well, here it is. Earlier this year at Comiskey Park, Bannister to Collins, and he doesn't take kindly to it. Watch what happens. He'll lose his glasses. He's bouncing off guys like it's a game of bumper cars. Dave, get a hold of yourself. And here he is. Switch hitter hitting .310. And a ball.
Well, there was something that happened before that. Cangellosi, the center fielder we just saw, had stolen second base with the White Sox having a 6-run lead. Cangellosi came up and was hit off the shoulder and then the head by Randy O'Neill, a right-handed reliever. And that little bean brawl event was in foment when Collins came up.
When LaPointe nailed him with that blue dress, Collins vowed there will be reprisals.
You know, LaPointe brought it out before the ball game. He said, let's get this on camera. So they said, Dave, you want to model it? And Lou Whitaker, who takes this game very seriously, snatched it away from LaPointe and said, no, you're not. We're not going to make a farce of this game. And he threw it in the runway and wouldn't let him do it.
2-1 and a quick throw to first, but Engel got back. The Tiger clubhouse will be loose this year with the presence of LaPointe and Collins. 2-1 pitch, and it levels at 2-2.
Be interesting to see if Dave Collins can be the kind of base stealer and offensive threat on the dirt and grass, again, that high grass here in Detroit, that he was when he was an artificial surface player for Sparky Anderson years ago, and up at Toronto on the turf. He's a different player, really, on dirt and grass than on the surface, the artificial surface.
Well, in '84 at Toronto, on turf, 308, 60 stolen bases. In '80 with the Reds on turf, 79 steals, 303 batting average. Didn't do as well with the Yankees or with the A's on dirt and grass.
And also what happens to Dave Collins with a less than average throwing arm on the artificial surface with the ball getting to you more quickly. You can't take many extra bases. On dirt and grass, the ball is slowed down and the throws go offline. Your defense shows up too, or lack of it sometimes.
Bannister can't handle it. That might have been a good move. I don't know if he did that on purpose or not.
Yep.
If he did, he really was aware of where his defense was positioned. It turns into a double play.
He didn't have good defensive positioning, so he said, let it go for my defense.
Watch Bannister. He starts to make a move for Collins' grounder through the box, and then he pulls away, perhaps knowing that the middle infielders have a better chance. Look at that. He just pulls his glove away. He knew where Cruz was. Cruz gets over. It's an easier play to just pick it up, step on the bag, and complete the DP.
He really didn't have a good follow-through position. It was way off balance with his legs, all tied in a pretzel. It's not one of the only ways, even from the right side, you can double Collins up right back at the pitcher or unassisted down in the middle of the diamond.
Kittle to start the fourth in a scoreless game, each team with 2 hits. Terrell's got to miss the fact that he can't swing the bat in the American League. Remember the game at Wrigley a few years ago? We saw him hit 2 home runs in that game for the Mets.
Hey, I don't think there's any question with the 24-man roster that Sparky Anderson has in the back of the mind. Terrell, coming from the National League, being a pretty decent hitter, could be used in extra inning games when the roster's gone as a pinch hitter. John McNamara pencils Tim Lawler's name in the bottom of his extra players. In parentheses, Lawler, pinch hitter, just in case.
Kittle strikes out for the 2nd time today and the 20th time this year in 51 at-bats. Well, pitchers have made their mark with the bat so far in the National League. Dan Schatzeder had 3 straight pinch hits for Montreal, and last night, Craig Lefferts hit a homer in the 12th for San Diego, and the Padres beat the Giants 9-8 at San Diego. Fisk singled in the 2nd inning. This could be one of the world's longest at-bats. Terrell likes to take his time, and Fisk is legendary in that regard. He foils the script by hitting the first pitch. Trammell with a long throw, and he got it.
You can see by the zip that Trammell on that ball from deep shortstop, almost the grass, that the arm is no longer bothering him. What was Sparky Anderson's line to him when he said his shoulder was bothering him? It's been off and on for a couple of years. He said, Alan, you got to remember, pain doesn't hurt. Alan said, I kind of walked away bewildered, saying, what did he mean by that?
Sparky has been known for some unusual pronouncements.
Oh.
Bonilla grounded into a force in his first at-bat.
Sparky was great this morning for about 15 minutes. There was a clinic in the ballpark early this morning, started at 9, 15 minutes. He regaled the coaches and all the high school kids here from the Michigan area with stories and how to play the game, talked about the philosophy of the game and playing hard. He was something. He even quoted Johnny Berardino from Hospital. He's a former Major League player.
I believe that's General Hospital, as the soap opera fans will tell you. 4 pennants with the Reds, another here in Detroit. A hard shot. It's been a busy day at first so far for Engel. Hit it right at him. And the White Sox go out 1-2-3 in the 4th. Still no score after 3.5. Very becoming chapeau.
What would Casey Stengel think? The way you've desecrated the emblem of the Toledo Mud Hens. You know, Casey managed there years ago.
I do know that. As a matter of fact, Casey was the manager of the Mud Hens in 1927 when they won the minor league World Series.
Oh, you're making a farce of this game. Coaching first, managing. Where is your purest blood?
Trammell shows the bunt and takes a ball from Bannister in the bottom of the 4th. Allen flied to center in the 1st inning.
Trammell, with a little help from Alex Grammas, although Veda Pinson, the hitting coach, has moved up on the plate. He said, I'm really having trouble, he said. I can't reach the outside corner. When I try and reach the outside corner, they jam me. Grammas, who is not noted for his hitting, said, why don't you do something? Either give outside or inside or something. Move up on the plate. Hits that ball right on the nose. Nice
Missed,
try.
couldn't catch it. And Trammell has a base hit.
It was Gates Brown quite a few years ago when Trammell was injured. Gates Brown, the former hitting instructor who left the Tigers with a bitter taste in his mouth, moved Trammell away from the plate, closed his stance, and he became a 300 hitter for a few years. It is hooking, and it is sinking, and Pudge Fisk smothers it. Makes a nice try. You know, being a catcher with that strong lower body, he's going to get good jumps on the ball. He may not have great running speed, but I think the quickness and getting out of the blocks will be okay for Pudge.
Fisk had a great line in Boston last weekend as Cole steps in. After playing all those years for the Red Sox and then as a visiting player at the catcher's spot, looking out toward the left field wall. Now moved to the outfield. Out of play off Cole's bat. He was talking with some reporters, and as he walked away and headed for his position in left field for pregame warm-ups, he said, excuse me, guys, I got to go turn my back on an old friend.
And we saw the first 2 balls he got off the wall in Fenway last weekend. He'd played out there before, but he rifled a bullet to second, held a guy to a single. They actually played Darnell Coles over toward right center field. Claimed to hit a little bit late.
He hit a little bit late off a fastball from Dotson last night, and it worked out perfectly. A double down the line and right that cleared the bases.
Vada Pinson was a hitting instructor up in Seattle when Darnell Coles was a baby. Tried to play him at shortstop. He's got that great throwing arm. Doesn't quite have the quickness and speed to play short, but he may be the third baseman. But the answer to that problem for Sparky Anderson for a number of years, the way he's started. Be a confidence builder.
Trammell has been in double figures in steals every year of his major league career. Stole 30 in '83.
He's gone downhill the last couple of years. They feel he's lost a step. Sparky was talking about Collins, Gibson, and Trammell stealing a total of 150 bases this year, but Gibby's, who knows how long he's going to be gone. The team doctor last night said he is coming along faster than anybody thought. Still swollen. Severely strained ligaments in the ankle.
Could be two. Guillen steps on the bag and does it himself.
Well,
So there are 2 outs in the 4th as we check with Marv Albert in New York.
Thank you, Bob. And in St. Louis, Sid Fernandez off to a blazing start. 4 straight strikeouts. He's with 5 out of the 6 men he's faced. The hot Mets lead the Cardinals 4-1 in the 4th. Back to Bob and Tony.
All right, Marv, you know, Tony, you take a look at that Met pitching staff. It's not just good. Darling, Fernandez, good young pitchers. And Fernandez, I think, is going to be the real surprise of this season. And behind them, Rick Aguilera and now Bob Ojeda over from the Red Sox. Davey Johnson has some artillery.
it's a nice balance to have those 2 left-handers, especially when you play the Cardinals and turn those switch hitters around. Mets never started a left-hander against the Cardinals last year, did they?
No,
Fernandez
they never used Fernandez because he was so weak at holding runners on base, and he worked on that in the offseason and improved greatly.
It is a little early, though, for some writers and people to start talking about a Subway Series just because of what the Mets and the Yankees are doing.
Once that media machine gets going in New York, there's no stopping it.
Of which you are a part.
No, I distance myself from that. My objective is to be objective.
I'll tell Lupica you said that.
1-2 pitch with 2 out and nobody on to Herndon. Fastball swung on and missed. It's the first strikeout for Bannister. No score after 4, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station. Guillen, Cruz, and Skinner for the White Sox in the top half of the 5th against Walt Terrell. As we mentioned, the Tigers begin the day at 8-7, 3.5 back of the Yankees in the East. The Yanks have won 6 in a row, although they trail Cleveland at Yankee Stadium this afternoon. The White Sox have won 3 in a row after a 2-10 start. They're in the basement for the time being in the AL West, but just 4 back of California.
If not for Doyle Alexander, where would Toronto be? Gave him another good start yesterday. Is that 4 for him or 5 with Steve and Jimmy Key struggling?
Speaking of Alexander, I noticed that when the Royals played up in Toronto, Alexander, who has excellent control, hit Brett twice in the same game. Is that a coincidence, or does it have something to do with Game 3 of the playoffs last year?
One was a changeup and one was a knuckleball. George gets hit about 3 times all year long. He got hit twice. Nothing to do with it. Like Doyle argued. He argued with the umpire, thought that Brett could have gotten out of the way. Looked like he was trying to get hit by off-speed pitches.
2-0 to Guillen.
Some pitchers don't like what he just did. Walked up in the batter's box. Ted Williams used to get away with that. A little guy like Guillen, he walked up and then was going to try and slap it by Darnell Coles.
What right do they have to complain about that?
They just don't like you walking up on a sinker ball.
Here's Brookins. Takes care of Guillen.
I mean, if you were pitching and the pitcher was throwing fairly hard but not hard, and you embarrassed him by walking up in the batter's box and saying, you're not throwing that hard, pal, I'm going to try and step up on you.
I'm with you.
What would you
now.
do if you were a pitcher? Plunk him in the ribs the next time?
No, I would simply proceed about my business.
And say, sir, would you please stay back in the batter's box, huh?
Cruz drew a walk in his first plate appearance in the 3rd inning. Strike one to him. They call him Juice with the White Sox. He has not been the performer he was with Seattle and early in his tenure with the White Sox. He's had a variety of injuries the last couple of years.
He's another player who gets hurt when he comes off the artificial surface. Speed not as prominent on this.
Goes the opposite way for a one-out single as Herndon gets it back in.
Another situation with one out. Skinner hitting out of the 9 spot. You could see some movement on the bases.
When Cruz, who's now at first, was reactivated, Juan Augusto, the left-handed reliever, who had been so impressive in spring training and so unimpressive once the season began, was sent back to Buffalo. Augusto had let a number of leads slip through his fingers. Ball one high to Skinner.
This is not a whole lot unlike last night's game, where for about 4 or 5 innings a whole lot wasn't happening, and then about the 5th and 6th things started exploding all over this ballpark. It's happened too frequently to the starting staff of Billy Muffet of the Tigers. When they do get a game, they get out of Frank Tanana, the left-hander up in Boston, who struck out 1 and walked 6 and gave up 3 base hits. Left-hander up there. This pitching staff's deep, the Tigers starting staff. The Point's your 5th starter now in the bullpen. But you wouldn't think they would continue to go like this. However, as the inning buildup on the Petries and the Morris has been something that has hurt this staff. Well, they've pitched a lot of innings over the last half dozen years.
Morris pitches tomorrow against Joel Davis of the White Sox. First pitch of the season from Morris to Dwight Evans of the Red Sox, hit for a homer. And it's been like that ever since for Jack Morris. He's been throwing batting practice so far this season. Each of the contenders in the American League East has at least one significant problem. We'll talk about that in a minute. What about Dave Steeb's elbow with Toronto?
Well, it bothered him the last couple of months of the year. He has thrown a lot of sliders in his career. Tried to work a curveball in more and off-speed stuff. Jimmy Key has struggled up there. Everybody keeps saying the Yankees pitching staff is not good, but in Yankee Stadium, 81 games, it'll be okay.
Soft pop, Brookins back, Harper in, and it's Brookins for the second out. Well, you look at the Yankees. Ed Whitson can't pitch at home. Phil Niekro won 16 a year ago. Whether he can duplicate it this year with the Indians is another question, but there's 16 victories gone from last year's team. Britt Burns acquired from the White Sox. The hip condition will cause him to miss the entire year. His career is in doubt. Detroit is without Kirk Gibson for at least a month. Morris and Petrie have had their problems. Baltimore is without Mike Boddicker, finger injury, 15-day disabled list. Tippy Martinez has had dizzy spells of late.
Tippy's on the disabled list now, 21 days. I think it may be arm-related as it was the last couple of years.
Cangelosi. Terrell spears it and throws him out. So Cruz has a single, but that goes to waste. One man left in the top half of the 5th, and still no score. Beautiful spring day at Tiger Stadium. The White Sox, oddly, have not won a day game all year. They're 0-6 in sunshine. No score as we go to the bottom of the 5th. Parrish, Lemon, and Harper.
You were talking about Kittle, who has struck out 16 times so far. How about Parrish? He's got 19 strikeouts, and Pudge Fisk has 18. Parrish, the man who Sparky Anderson has told hitting instructor Veda Pinson to lay off. He said, I do not want you talking to Parrish, which didn't hurt Veda's feelings because the personal hitting instructor of Lance Parrish is Hall of Famer Al Kaline. He trusts in Kaline, and he works with him in the spring, talks to him during the offseason.
Last 4 years, Parrish's homers have ranged between 27 and 33, and his RBIs 87 and 111. A consistent producer.
Well, it's typical. He's in one of those lousy grooves where you're too late on the fastball and too early on the off-speed stuff. One time Parrish hit the ball very hard in the minor leagues and early in his major league career to right center field. Now he's become pretty much a pull hitter. And when he starts pulling the ball too much, he gets that bat and the barrel hit started too soon, and he's always way out in front. He opens those hips up, the shoulder flies, the bat drags.
He's a California kid, and looking at him, it won't surprise you to know he had football scholarship offers from UCLA, among others. Spurned them to sign with the Tigers. Last year won his 3rd Gold Glove. And he'll produce those homers and RBIs even when his batting average falls off. He's had seasons where he's hit around 240, but the homers were still near 30 and close to 100 RBIs. Ripped, and Guillen with a great play. I don't believe it. It gets by and into the dugout, and I would have been very interested to see the call had Bonilla been able to come up with it.
I think he might have been out. It looked like he would have had him by a half a step. Joe Skinner tried to get down and back the play up. Ozzie Smith will make plays like that on occasion. But Ozzie Smith many times will fall down on balls or do acrobatic things on balls hit directly at him. He's a great showman. Ozzie Guillen, whose throwing arm is not real strong, but he almost made a one heck of a play right there.
And that is as tough an error as you'll ever see anybody be charged with.
It's a base hit and an error, I'm sure.
That's what it is. It's a single and E6 on the throw after one of the all-time, or almost all-time, great plays at the shortstop position. And he was 5 feet onto the outfield grass. Here's Lemon. Man at second, nobody out. Ball one high and away.
Ozzie plants the right foot. He did get quite a bit on this, and really Bobby Bonilla had a good bounce to handle, a long hop, but he stretched so, expecting the ball to scoot, and it popped up and went over his head.
1-1 to Lemon. Looking at the replay, I think Parrish would have been safe had Bonilla handled it, but barely.
Lemon with nobody out and a runner on second base trying to get the ball to the right side. It's the kind of situation where you might see that fastball or breaking ball down and in to force Lemon to pull the ball. Lemon likes the ball out over the plate. One of the reasons why he gets hit so often. He stands relatively close to the plate, and he dives into the ball on occasion.
The 1-1. 2-1. Only Don Baylor has been hit more often among active big leaguers.
Watch Guillen's throw once again. Notice Bonilla on this especially. He stretches out expecting the ball to scoot. And when he stretched out so far, the ball was just a little overhead high. He probably would have been safe. It would have been bang, bang, outstanding effort by Guillen.
We're in the bottom half of the 5th. No score. Parrish at second after a single and a tough throwing error charged to Ozzie Guillen.
Interesting here, Bonilla on a 2-1 count playing up for a bunt, which gives a lot of room for Lemon to hit by him on that side.
2-2. Harper on deck.
Now they're moving Bonilla back at first base. I don't know why he was in so tight to start with. It's only the 5th inning. Expect your 5th hitter to bunt in that situation. If you do, he's doing you a favor. You're playing for 1 run, giving up an out too easily. But maybe all you'll get is 1 run when it may have the makings of a bigger inning. Sparky's had to do some strange things last year when they weren't producing runs except for the home run power. He was bunting more. Same as McNamara's up in Boston.
3-2 pitch from Bannister to Lemon coming. Parrish has to go back to second, and Guillen throws Lemon out.
Looked like Bannister pulled the string of that pitch a little bit, and while he did it, I think he hurt something because he signaled into the dugout to Dave Duncan to get somebody warmed up. He got hurt. I don't know if it was the last pitch or the pitch before, but something's wrong with Bannister. He called Guillen in. He went around with his finger on his bare hand, signaling to get somebody loose. Don't know what he hurt, but I think he has hurt something.
Well,
Still
we'll
no
watch
action.
for action in the bullpen. Nothing yet. Harper lined hard to Tollison in his first at-bat in a Detroit uniform.
He doesn't want to throw. He hurt his left foot. Don't know which part of his left foot. Ankle, calf. You can see what he's doing from that center field camera. He wants out. He's already signaled, but La Russa is not getting anybody ready.
Called strike on the outside edge. Nobody stirring down in that bullpen.
What I've seen stir is Herm Schneider, the trainer, who's come up to the second step in case he's needed.
Cruz juggles and has time. That's the second out as Parrish advances to third.
Ordinarily, Floyd Bannister, not a ground ball pitcher, but in the first 4 innings, first, third, and fourth, when Min got on, he threw double plays, but they were on breaking balls, all 3 that he got the double plays.
Through the first 4 innings, the Tigers had 3 hits off Bannister, and yet he had faced the minimum 12 men because of the 3 double plays, and now here comes La Russa.
Bannister wants out. He signaled to the bench to get somebody loose. Something wrong. Here's either the calf or the ankle. Wants to tell La Russa about it. He's perhaps saying, hey, look, can you gut it out? Get the last hitter in this inning, then we can get you through the 5th. There were times, and I think it was a tag that was hung on Bannister when he was with Houston and after that, that he didn't have the guts to pitch. I don't believe that's true. He's a real tough kid. He's very quiet. He's got a very droll sense of humor. And of course, he went to Seattle. The same tag stuck with him. They keep saying, hey, if you got that kind of great stuff, why can't you win? Perhaps it is with Art Kushner and Dave Duncan say he's too much of a perfectionist, wants to make the perfect pitch all the time.
And you kept hearing that he wouldn't establish that pitch on the inside part of the plate. Not talking about throwing at people, brushing them back. I'm talking about taking control of the inside portion of the plate, the way a John Tudor, for example, does with the Cardinals.
He keeps looking into the dugout, and they still have nobody ready. Now they're coming out of the bullpen on the right field corner.
2-0 to Engel. At the end of this inning, we'll have another edition of Baseball Remembers, and it focuses on Ted Williams. Dave Engel's dad, Roy, grew up with Ted Williams in San Diego. 3-0 now, and Roy Engel played football at USC. In fact, starting fullback for the Trojans in a pair of Rose Bowls.
Dave Schmidt, over for the Texas Rangers with that pound ball, that sinker. Got the makings of a pretty good bullpen. Bob James, the closer, he's been awesome the last few times out.
He walks Engel on 4 pitches, and that's the first hitter he's walked. He was having no trouble with his control until this inning when the apparent injury to his foot has thrown him off stride, no pun intended.
And he hadn't thrown the ball well at all. The ball just seems to be, well, the velocity is at least 8 to 10 miles per hour slower, and it's kind of a crisp fastball. It's kind of running out of the strike zone, the right-handed hitters.
Brookins, first and third, 2 out. Takes a strike. Sparky Anderson, apparently with little regard for egos or reputations, noted that Lou Whitaker had hit .224 against lefties the last 2 seasons combined and said, I'm going to sit him against some southpaws, and that's the way it's going to be, all-star or not. 0-2. Darrell Evans will be 39 next month. Led the league in homers with 40. Oldest man ever to lead the American League in that department. First Tiger to do it since Hank Greenberg in 46. Sparky said fine. He still sits against some left-handers. Here comes the 0-2 pitch to Brookins. Line drive, base hit. The Tigers have the lead. Comes across with what could be an unearned run because of the Guillen throwing error.
And the pitch hit on the count that drives catchers, pitching coaches, and managers absolutely crazy. They lose a lot of sleepless nights. No balls, 2 strikes. A fastball looked like it was right down the middle of the plate. Tony La Russa is going to come out now and talk to Rich Garcia. Herm Schneider, the trainer, comes out to ask Rich Garcia, hey, look, we've got an injury problem here. Can the man who comes in get as many pitches as he wants? Rich Garcia probably will say, yeah. An injury, we know about it. You came out one other time. Dave Schmidt will be allowed to throw as many as he wants when he comes out. That 0-2 pitch right down the middle.
Schmidt continuing to throw down in the bullpen. And Bannister will stay. So Collins will step in to face him with runners at first and second, 2 outs, and a run home here in the bottom of the 5th.
All right-handers in the bullpen for Tony La Russa. And Augusto being sent down.
Seventh big league stop for Collins. Well, those guys in the truck are thinking right along with me. California, Seattle, Cincinnati, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the A's, and now the Tigers. Change for a ball. The record for most teams played with is 10. Several players have played with 10 big league clubs. Tommy Davis was one of them.
Brett's brother is one of them.
Yep. Ken Brett. 1-0 pitch. Bounce to short. Guillen goes to Cruz for the force, and they're out of the inning, and we'll see if Bannister is there in the 6th. The Tigers get the game's first run, lead 1-0, and now another edition of Baseball Remembers, focusing on the splendid splinter, Ted Williams. Again, we remind our viewers we'll select the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the contest, and the $1,000 award goes to help fight multiple sclerosis.
Get the word from home plate umpire Rich Garcia. He was in the midst of the conversation with La Russa and Herm Schneider and Bannister that apparently a knee problem. Don't know if Bannister got the cleats caught. You know, wonder if it was the ball that was hit directly back up the middle that he started after, got his feet tangled up, and Cruz turned the double play. He was in a very awkward position then. You see the shadows are going to creep across home plate another inning or so, which will make it a little tougher on this bright day in Detroit to see. So Baseball Remembered, second best hitter I ever saw, Ted Williams.
And the best?
Right-handed, Mickey Mantle. Right-handed. And folks, that's not the token Mickey Mantle common. Right-handed, he had the perfect swing.
Lifetime, Mickey hit about 328, I think, right-handed, and it was around 340 before the last several years of his career. And he had several seasons where he was over 400 right-handed and down around 275 or so left-handed.
Placed the ball with power in that right field bullpen in Yankee Stadium when they try and keep the ball away. He'd walk up on the ball and hit it out in that direction. It's awesome.
Regularly hit it over that 407 sign in right center, batting right-handed at the old Yankee Stadium. 1-1 to Tolleson. Cole's in close for the bunt. 2 balls and a strike.
Stanley, when Mickey presented that Sportscaster of the Year award, he gave you a pair of nice cowboy boots. Did you have them bronzed yet? Dangling from your rearview mirror?
A little too big to dangle from the rearview mirror. I'll wear them to next week's game. How's that? The 2-1. Ran up as if to bunt. It's inside, 3-1. Terrell hasn't walked anybody yet and doesn't walk many, as a matter of course. He has excellent control.
He is not an easy pitcher to hit against. You keep saying when you go up, make him get it up. And yet it's about mid-thigh when you see it, out halfway between home plate and the pitcher's mound, and next thing you know, it's down beneath the knees. Plus with that palm ball, changing speeds on the off-speed pitch.
Lemon flips the shades and makes the catch.
You can see those left-handers trying to go and hit the ball the opposite way. As soon as they start doing that, you can start getting the ball in on their fists and up. Ride a fastball, a four-seamer, even though it's not real hard, when you're looking away, ties you up inside.
In addition to that batting average away from home, the American League's best at .335, for whatever reason, Baines hit .341 against left-handers.
Whoa!
Look out! This game is tied. And it hits the facing of the roof. That is your major tape measure job.
If that ball had been over a foot or so more towards center field, it does go on the roof, perhaps over, because it appeared to have the trajectory of still going up. A good low ball hitter, Harold Baines, gets challenged by Terrell. That was a rocket. That ball hit that facing before you could blink your eye. Watch the right leg kick, how his timing device, ball about mid-thigh high, and Harold, who does not watch home runs a la Harmon Killebrew, Reggie Jackson, just keeps on trotting.
We saw Reggie put one over the roof here a couple of years ago. The last guy to do it was Lou Whitaker, of all people, last May off Bert Hooton. This one might put the White Sox in front. Kittle goes deep. Back-to-back homers. It's 2-1 Chicago. Baines his fifth, now Kittle with his third.
Sparky saw this same kind of action yesterday off Dan Petrie. Here's Baines again. In an all-star game here, not too many years ago, Reggie Jackson, a monumental home run off a transformer in right center that Harry Coyle, our director, then captured. Bucky Guns just captured a Baines shot, and then a Kittle back-to-backer.
2-1 White Sox in the top of the sixth, and Fisk steps in.
21 home runs in 7 ball games so far this season, and this game's not over with yet.
Lemon coming in, Harper over from right field, and Harper makes the catch. That's the second out. So Ron Kittle, the previous hitter, had been made to look foolish. His first 2 at-bats by Terrell, struck him out twice, and Kittle wasn't even close. But that's what happens with a Ron Kittle. It's all or nothing. And he got it all that time.
Tony La Russa, all-time home run leaders.
Isn't that interesting? No one with more than 154 in the long history of the White Sox. Bill Melton.
Bill Melton, he had a year that he led the league in home runs. It was about the quietest league-leading home run championship I ever saw. You never heard of him. Then he hurt that back.
Engel couldn't get that one. It's extra bases for Bonilla down into the bullpen. Harper plays the carom, and it's a 2-out double.
All of a sudden, Terrell, the low ball pitcher, is getting the balls about belt high between the knees and the belt. This kid's got some ability, Bonilla.
Let me tell you something about Bonilla. He grew up in the South Bronx, 10 blocks from Yankee Stadium. I asked him yesterday, did you watch Tony Kubek play?
I said, who?
He said that was way before my time. He's only 23.
Getting a chance to play because Greg Walker got that arm in the cast. Walker slipped in the mud, dove for a ball, and fractured a bone in his wrist.
Guillen takes a ball.
Guillen, his first 2 years in the minor leagues for San Diego, switch hit. In fact, in winter ball last year in Venezuela, he hit his first 30 at-bats.
One shortstop throws out another as Trammell takes care of Guillen, but on the back-to-back homers by Baines and Kittle, the White Sox erase a 1-0 deficit and take a 2-1 lead after 5.5. Legends of golf after baseball on NBC. Gary Player, Arnold Palmer, Chichi Rodriguez, along with Lee Elder. The defending champions are Gene Littler and Don January, and they have the early lead at a combined 14 under. And we do have a new pitcher. Bannister sustained an injury to his left knee. He's gone, and Dave Schmidt who came over from Texas along with Wayne Tollison in the deal that sent infielder Scott Fletcher and the pitcher Ed Correa to the Rangers. Schmidt is the new pitcher. Middle relief has been a problem for a while for the White Sox. They needed some setup men for Bob James. Hawk Harrelson hopes Schmidt can be one. He had the same hopes for Neil Allen, although Allen has been hit hard so far with the White Sox.
I believe Neil Allen will be on the trading block if they can get the right kind of deal. Somebody outside the Western Division American League. Dave Schmidt, we talked about they have just 5 right-handed pitchers in that bullpen for the White Sox, but Schmidt with that palm ball has a pitch he can get left-handers out, the same as Dolly, who came over from Houston. He's got the fork ball. There it is. It is not unusual for Dave Schmidt sometimes to throw 4, 5, and even a half a dozen change-ups in a row. It is that good. Sinker, slider also. He's got great arm motion.
Trammell's 1 for 2.
There it is again. So one thing, if Sparky Anderson needs it, he's got some left-handed lumber he can throw up there if he wants to pinch hit. Laga, Evans, Bergman, Spillman, Whitaker, Sheridan. Doesn't have a right-handed pinch hitter on the bench.
2-2 to Trammell. Allen hit .319 in 1983, .314 in the World Championship season a year later. And then with the shoulder problems, dropped to .258 a year ago. Squibbed foul.
That palm ball will have that overspin. We explained it with Terrell, but sometimes, depending upon how it leaves your hand, and it might not leave the hand the same way every time, depending on which finger it rolls off or which direction it rolls off the thumb, it can go away and sometimes in, but usually down.
Guillen takes care of Trammell. So Trammell threw Guillen out to end the White Sox 6th, and the Tigers 6th opens in reverse fashion.
The only thing he and Ozzie Smith have in common, they instinctively get such a first quick step. Guillen does not have the running speed of Ozzie Smith or Tony Fernandez or Alfredo Griffin, but his first step with those strong legs is so quick. I say he never gets a bad hop. He never gets a bad hop because he reads the ball off the bat so quickly.
Something else that Smith and Guillen have in common, that joie de vivre. They really enjoy themselves.
Joie de vivre?
Little linguistics lesson for you.
We know you majored in French at Syracuse, of course.
Minored, very minor. Next one to Coles, another swing and a miss, 0-2. You know, some players just exude
joie de vivre.
Yeah, that joy for the game, that special feeling, that sense of personal style. Guillen has it. Maybe nobody playing baseball today has it any more than Ozzie Smith does. The 0-2 misses.
Change up like Schmidt's, like the split-fingered fastball, is really, it's almost a three-dimensional pitch. The change of speeds, the downward action, unlike the straight change off the fastball.
In the air to right. Baines a few steps back, and he clutches it.
And that change, many times you get that difference in the lateral movement, right and left, as you're looking at it from a hitter.
Now it'll be Herndon. Interestingly, Bannister has a chance to be the winning pitcher in this game. He managed to make it through that bottom of the 5th, left trailing 1-0, and the homers by Baines and Kittle make him the pitcher of record, with the White Sox leading 2-1. This might tie it up. It's headed for the corner, and it's off the wall. Herndon has a double.
Change up, it stayed upstairs. Herndon hit it almost with one hand. This park, like Fenway Park, in fact, this may be a better park to hit in than Fenway. You've got a great background hitting out of the dark. The ball sound good here, and it's a psychological thing. About belt high inside part of the plate. The power alleys are so short here. If you're a pitcher, you try and say, well, keep it to the big part of the ballpark, which funnels to 440 feet in dead center field. But if you don't keep it right there, those power alleys of 365 and 370 are very, very attractive, and that's where more balls are hit than any place else.
Power alleys are short. The dimension to dead center, 440, is now the longest in the major leagues.
Interesting, like in right center field where you're looking right now and down the line, that upper deck overhangs about 10 feet into the playing surface, so you really don't have to hit a ball 325 feet to get it in the seats. You can hit it about 315 if it's high enough, and it'll land right in the front row of the upper deck.
Parrish singled and scored in the 5th. Another off-speed pitch for a strike. Remember the setup at the old Polo Grounds in left field? The facade hung over. An outfielder would be camped under what looked like a routine fly ball, and it would tick that facade on the way down, and the ground rule said that was a home run. The 0-1. Called strike.
Parrish didn't like that. Hitters won't complain too often on the first pitch if they think the umpire missed it and calls it a strike and you think it's a ball. When he puts you in 0-2, as Parrish is now, you get a few more stares and dirty looks.
Struck him out on 3 pitches and tied him in knots in the process. Well, you called it about Schmidt. That changeup is really working in his first inning in this ball game. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. We mentioned earlier that Walt Terrell was the second toughest pitcher to hit a homer off of in the American League last year, behind only Danny Jackson of the Royals. But it has been the gopher ball that's hurt him today. The homers by Baines and Kittle, the difference. 2-1 Chicago as we go to the 7th.
Walt Terrell doesn't walk a whole lot. He's a little bit, in that respect, like Doyle Alexander from Toronto. Some of the other great pitchers, Robin Roberts and the Spahns, when they had a lot of home runs, usually they don't walk people on ahead of it. Give up more solo home runs than anything else.
Cruz has walked and singled in his 1986 debut. First pitch swinging gives Lemon a chance. 1 out in the Chicago 7th. That brings up Joel Skinner. At nearly 6'5" and about 205 pounds, he doesn't fit the usual body type for a catcher. Of course, Fisk, his predecessor at that position, also atypical of a catcher's body.
Jerry Reinsdorf, one of the co-owners with Eddie Einhorn of the White Sox, have a pretty good conditioning program. Dick Vermeil's brother Al spends time in spring training. In fact, Al Vermeil also has been hired not only for the White Sox, but to work with the Chicago Bulls basketball team. Mr. Reinsdorf owns that team also.
Tell him not to fool around with anything Michael Jordan wants to do. Leave him alone.
49-63, and they held them almost to nothing, the Celtics, in Game 3, didn't they?
NBA season is over here in Detroit after the Pistons lost at home last night to the Hawks by a point in double overtime.
Yours and John Cangelosi's counterpart in the sports world, Spud Webb, sunk 2 free throws, didn't he, in double overtime?
Two and 1 the count to Skinner with 1 out and nobody on, top of the 7th.
Show you how thorough new White Sox hitting instructor Willie Horton is. He talked to Bob Skinner during this winter. Father of Joel said, what have you been teaching him as a kid growing up? Because he's a hitting instructor. And he said, I'm going to build on that. So he has worked with Skinner, but not saying anything different than what Bob told him. Now let's go to New York and listen in to Marvin Albert.
Thanks, Tony. At the stadium in the Yankee 4th inning, Ron Hasse disagreeing with a called 3rd strike. Hasse and manager Lou Piniella go berserk in a tag team match with the umpire. Both get the thumb. Yanks trail Cleveland 3-1 in the 5th. Back to Bob and Tony.
And the next event that you'll be doing, Marv, is WrestleMania. You're doing Bob Costas talking about the tag team matches.
Yeah, Kubek, you are just out of control now. I mean, you'll just say anything that pops into your mind, won't you? We got to get you on a leash.
When you can coach first and manage on a AAA level, as you did last week with the Toledo Mud Hens, I can do and say whatever I feel like.
You wacky funster. Here's Cangelosi. Well hit to right field. Harper started in, goes back, and he is on the track as he makes the catch.
Is that ball live here? Cangelosi got fooled and hit 375 feet.
It carries here, and it brings us to another edition of 7th inning stretch. Here's the play you may have seen on your late local news last Tuesday night at Fenway Park. Look at the left ankle twist. They said you could hear the ligaments pop all the way to the dugout. No surgery necessary for Kirk Gibson. The leg is in a cast for a while. He's out for at least a month, maybe as long as 6 weeks. His recuperative powers, however, are legendary. He might be back sooner than some people expect.
You do not compensate or get somebody to pick up the load for Kirk Gibson. He's that good. The interesting thing is you're going to miss his home run power and his speed, obviously, but I think what they'll miss even more, the longer he's had, that drive that he had. Some call it a football mentality, but it's kind of the leadership on the field that Sparky Anderson wanted, a guy that guts out everything, drives hard. He's become an established star, I think you can say, of Kirk Gibson by now after the last couple of years and what he's done.
Lemon hits the first pitch in the bottom of the 7th down to Tollison. 1 out.
I think it was interesting. It was last week or the week before where Marv Albert had Mr. Peter Ueberroth on talking about was there collusion, not anybody going after a Kirk Gibson, such an attractive superstar, quote unquote. Said no, there was no collusion. Said that they're just budgeting their money better. Really surprising that all the teams would come to their senses the same year when it has been proven that a guy like Kirk Gibson, when you sign him, you end up selling more season tickets and you almost get your money back instantaneously, like a Jackson or a Carew when he went in the trade. So I really didn't agree with the commissioner. Which is not unusual.
You could do an excellent job as an agent, I see.
Oh.
Evans bats for Harper and takes a ball. Darrell Evans says the mini feud of this spring is over now between him and Sparky Anderson. He says, I've said my piece, and that's the end of it. I got a chance to blow off some steam. I don't agree with it all, but there's a good atmosphere on this ballpark, a lot of team spirit on this ball club, I should say, and he doesn't plan to rock the boat.
Well, you can see the thinking of Jimmy Campbell, a brilliant president of this ball club, and Bill Joy, the general manager, to think, hey, look, we can't all get old at the same time. And, you know, you've got guys now that are getting to the 30 mark, or upper 20s. They've got to infuse the Lagas into the lineup, the Darnell Coles. Look out.
It is a tie ball game. They gave him one swing, and he made the most of it. Last year's American League home run champion. He got 40 of them. Ties it at 2.
A pound ball that may even have been out of the strike zone beneath the knees. But you're looking at a pretty good, and it's an understatement, low ball hitter in Darrell Evans. I'd love to have seen him play his entire career in this ballpark, the way he pulls the ball to reach those right center and right field seats, or Yankee Stadium. Wow. I mean, he did well enough in places like Atlanta and San Francisco.
Now Sheridan is batting for Engel. Down to Bonilla, comes up with it and makes the play unassisted. Let's go back to the Evans home run. Watch it one more time.
See where the pitch is from Schmidt. Appeared to be a pound ball. Now, it wasn't out of the strike zone. It was right at the knees, inner part of the plate. It didn't go down enough, or like Schmidt wanted it to. And there's Darrell Evans. Over the year with Henry Aaron and Davey Johnson, and he, all three at 40 home runs or more at Atlanta.
Only time it's ever happened in Major League history. You mentioned all the left-handed bats Sparky had arrayed on his bench. He's using them in this inning. First Evans for Harper, then Sheridan for Engel. And now Lou Whitaker hits for Brookins, and he'll remain in the game as the second baseman. Tie ball game in the 7th. Lash toward the gap in right center. Cangelosi won't get there. It kicks away from him a little bit, but Whitaker is content with a double. So 2 of the 3 pinch hitters come through with extra base hits.
A left-handed reliever, somebody you can call on out of the bullpen, is a very prized commodity in baseball. Toronto certainly would like to have one now that Steve Davis has been sent down. White Sox sent Augusto down, as we said. They'd love to have one. But the Yankees back in spring training, they had 9 left-handers in their spring training camp, including guys like Al Holland, Tommy John, Dave Righetti, Scurry, on and on.
Cangelosi saved a triple by reaching out with his bare hand and flicking that ball back toward him as it started to kick away.
Bring a trip to the mound from Dave Duncan, one of the two pitching coaches. Of course, Mo Drabowski, the bullpen coach. I haven't been able to understand this. Now, Dave Schmidt is a member of the bullpen. Why didn't Mo come out? I guess it's too long a run from the right field bullpen, huh? Well, this is going on. They've got some action down in the pen. Former Astro is throwing, who's got a good arm also.
Former Cincinnati Red, Bill Dawley. In the All-Star game, as recently as 1983, when pitching for Houston, the Astros released him. White Sox picked him up. So now Dave Collins, who's 0 for 2, turns around and bats left-handed. He's a better hitter from this side anyway. Schmidt's pitch. Line, base hit. Whitaker around third. Could be close as Cangelosi throws. Oh, safe. Skinner had to reach out just a little bit down the first base side and then lunge back. Otherwise, they've got him.
Lou Whitaker does not have great running speed. But with 2 outs, he didn't have to hesitate at all. He cut third base very sharply. And when the left-handers throw, tailed away to the first base side, he slides away from the tag. Outstanding hitting by Collins. Great base running by Whitaker. The Cangelosi arm, not strong and not accurate this time from very short center field.
Here's what they'll tell you about Cangelosi. He does not have any better than an average arm, but he does charge the ball very well on base hits. And he got to that ball quickly and unloaded the throw, and had it been a little more on line, they've got Lou Whitaker.
And when the throw was let go, which it had to be, Collins, with that speed, kept on going. He got in scoring position. Guillen, I believe, has been sent out by La Russa to stall for some time, buy a few more pitches for Dolly, and he's out, and that'll be it for Dave Schmidt.
So Schmidt entered the game in the 6th and was sharp with the off-speed stuff. But Evans got to him here in the 7th for the pinch hit homer to tie it. Then with 2 out, Whitaker with a pinch hit double, and Collins follows by hitting the first pitch to him through the box for the go-ahead hit.
Playing very shallow, obviously, for Dave Collins. Look at how shallow Cangelosi is. Ball tails away, overshoots the cutoff man. Collins goes to second.
Middle relief continues to plague the White. That's Dave LaPointe handing the baseball to Willie Hernandez. Suddenly the Tigers have a late inning lead, so their stopper is getting ready. Dawley out of the bullpen for the White Sox, pitches to Trammell. Swing and a miss for strike 1.
First pitch looked like a split-fingered fastball. He throws hard and gets the ball up there in the high 80s. Slider. Became expendable in Houston with Dave Smith pitching so well as a closer. And I believe Dawley got a little bit heavy down there last season. They were unhappy with him with the new regime.
Well, Dick Wagner has plagued Dawley throughout his career. Wagner released him in Cincinnati, eventually showed up in Houston, and Dawley departed almost immediately. Quickly, it's 0-2 to Trammell. A ball outside and low. 2 runs across in the 7th. Collins at second base. 2 out. And a 3-2 Detroit lead. Rolled to short. Guillen, easy chance. That'll do it. But on the Evans home run, the double by Whitaker, and the RBI single by Collins, the Tigers take the lead. All 3 pinch hitters stay in the game. Evans plays first with Engel out. Whitaker to second with Brookins having been pinch hit for. And Sheridan into right field for the other new acquisition, Brian Harper.
What a difference in bench strength. All 6 of the hitters Sparky had available. He's used 3, capable of hitting the ball in the ballpark, all left-handed. Laga, Evans, Bergman, Spillman, Whitaker, and Sheridan. You look at Tony La Russa's bench, Harrison, Rodney Craig, Brian Little, switch hitters, and then Reed Nichols and Tim Hewlett. Not a whole lot of power on that bench, is there?
Terrell's pitch to Tollison outside, 2-0. So the home run derby continues at Tiger Stadium. This is what, just the 7th game here this year. And there have been 22 homers hit in this park already. 3 today.
Some debris on the field out in center field. Remember when Jimmy Campbell, the president, when some of the bleacher fans got rowdy? That isn't what's happening now. They're very well behaved in the sun out there. He closed the bleachers for weeks at a time.
A glorious day at Tiger Stadium, 22,000 here. Now, the Tigers were the last American League team to install lights. They didn't play night games here until 1948.
The second oldest ballpark, Major Leagues, next to Comiskey Park. Greatest story in the Hall of Famer Ernie Harwell in the broadcast booth. He can tell you every blade of grass in this field.
3-0 pitch coming to Tollison. Walked him on 4 pitches to open the 8th.
He didn't throw those balls well at all. Just trying to say, here, hit it to Tollison.
You got Baines coming up, left-handed batter, and even though he hits lefties well, I think Sparky's going to make his move. He may stall a while to give Hernandez a few more pitches down there in the bullpen.
Well, Hernandez walked down between innings, and he knew that Walt Terrell had told Sparky Anderson and Billy Muffet that he was starting to tire or stiffening up early in the season, so Hernandez comes in.
And his first assignment is hardly a piece of cake. He'll have to face Baines, and then it'll be Kittle. They're the guys who homered against Terrell. Hernandez is 5 for 5 in save situations this year. MVP and Cy Young Award winner in 1984 when they went all the way. He'll face Baines. I mentioned this in Baines' last at-bat against Terrell, the right-hander, against whom he homered. Baines hit .341 against left-handed pitching a year ago, .293 against right-handers. So you don't gain as much as you might think when you bring in a southpaw against him.
You probably cut down his power numbers, though, I would guess. And I haven't looked it up in the Baseball Analyst. Seymour Siwa from the Hurt Brothers book, which is about as prized a gem as you can get. But I would think his power production goes down, slugging average, and on-base average. Hernandez has been all but perfect his last 4 outings. He's had 4 saves, hasn't given up an earned run, struck out 6 and 5 in the 3rd. He's not a one-pitch pitcher. Everybody thinks all he's got is a screwball. He throws pretty hard, got a slider also. Had that ball by Baines.
Strike 1.
Had that ball by Baines. He's got a good, lively fastball. Mike Cuellar, former great Oriole pitcher, taught him the screwball, one Winter League season down in Puerto Rico. Ferguson Jenkins, Canadian ace, taught him how to cut a fastball.
Tollison at first with the potential tying run. Top of the 8th, 3-2 Detroit. And the 0-1 to Baines. He bunts. Maybe too hard. Hernandez goes to second and got him. And there was a moment's hesitation that almost cost Willie Hernandez there. But he got him anyway.
Going to get an argument from Tony La Russa. I believe that really surprised Wayne Tollison. He may have been safe. It was very close. I think Lance Parrish probably was the key, who was out from behind home plate in a hurry and could see the play. He could see what kind of jump Tollison got, and I believe he yelled to Hernandez, who came up throwing and never hesitated. Tollison was completely surprised. Not a sacrifice, obviously. Baines trying to bunt for a base hit with Coles back. Not a base hit, of course. He at least would have gotten a sacrifice. Hernandez ran the ball in high and inside. He couldn't deaden it. Parrish was yelling. I'll tell you, I think it's a pretty good call by Rick Reed, the second base umpire, from that last replay. It looked like he just had him. Perhaps by a foot, but he did. We'll see it better from this angle, or will we? I think he was out. Maybe a foot, but he was out. Good call, Rick Reed. You wonder why Baines, with that average off left-handers, would try and do that, huh?
I wonder what his personal history is against Hernandez in particular.
Yeah, well, that's a real tribute to Hernandez. There's no question. He's been so good, and they know it.
Maybe Baines just can't handle this guy and knows it.
Key to that was Parrish yelling to Hernandez, but also the complete surprise on Tollison, who didn't really get a good jump off first base. He had no idea Baines was going to bunt.
1-1 to Kittle, the American League's Rookie of the Year in '83. What about the rookie crop this season in both leagues? The best in memory.
Canseco, Incaviglia, Will Clark. There's some...
Danny Tartabull. A long drive to left.
Wynn's going to get this.
Herndon goes back. And this one is gone. The second homer of the day for Kittle. It lands in the second deck. And just like that, the White Sox reclaim the lead. In the classic all-or-nothing mode, he's been at bat 4 times. Struck out twice, homered twice.
I really think Willie Horton is going to help Kittle. He has moved Kittle up on the plate. He's saying, look, you're going to strike out anyway. Why don't you strike out trying to pull the ball? Hernandez calling into Pearson. Where was the pitch? Was it up in the strike zone? I don't think it was as far down or as far in as he wanted to get it. I don't believe it was a screwball. It looked almost like a slider. Trying to bust down and in or beneath the fists. Sparky saw this same thing last night, didn't he? A replay.
2 exciting games to open this series. 9-7 White Sox last night, overcoming a 7-2 Detroit lead. This one is seesawed.
Ron Kittle gets Baines off the hook a little bit, at least temporarily.
Fisk is 1 for 3.
There's a screwball. You can see when he throws the screwball, and that's a key to him, when something that Cuellar told him, his step is different. He will step more toward third base to open up his body so the arm can come through, stay on top of that screwball. It's too late, of course, for a hitter to be able to see it. Once that ball is almost released, you can't be looking at the guy's feet and the way he opens his hips. Look out.
Foul back toward us. You can tell the veterans. Hawk Harrelson is sitting down toward the end of our booth. He didn't flinch. He knew just where that ball was going. Some of the technicians, however, experienced heart failure as they dove to the floor. Still 0-2. Got him with a high fastball.
Whoops. After Hernandez threw that ball, there was a wince on his face. What he did was, what he's learned to do is to disguise the screwball where he steps more toward third base. He opened up and threw the fastball. I saw a little pain on his face after he threw that pitch very hard. That's one thing you can do. You mentioned the vantage point from up here, so close to home plate, best in the big leagues. You can see expressions on players' faces.
Bonilla bats from the right side. Whitaker came in this inning for Brookins and throws him out. But 2 runs come across on the second homer of the day by Kittle, and it's the White Sox turn to lead, 4-3. As Hernandez walked off at the end of the 8th inning, top half of the 8th, you thought he was still laboring a bit.
You know, he threw that one pitch, high fastball to Fisk. He winced. Don't know if he was still wincing after the home run off the bat of Ron Kittle, which gave the White Sox the lead. But he had some back problems last year. Everybody said he had a bad year last year, maybe 5 off weeks. It wasn't like the championship season where he was unhittable, indestructible, and all else.
So now Dawley has a chance to protect the lead and be the winning pitcher. Pitchers of record now are Hernandez on the losing side and Dawley on the winning side. Coles, Herndon, and Parrish are the scheduled hitters. 3 right-handed batters. 2-1. Well, we have a chance during the last inning. We mentioned all the rookie power hitters. Canseco with Oakland, Will Clark with San Francisco, Incaviglia with Texas. 2-2. Is it true that you bet Pat Gillick, general manager at Toronto, $50 that Incaviglia in his rookie season would lead the American League in homers?
That's part of the wager. We each took a couple guys. I also took Kirk Gibson as my number 2 choice, and Pat took Mr. Presley from up in Seattle, and I forgot who his other choice was. Incaviglia's going to hit some home runs. He's going to strike out, but boy, he is powerful. I think Incaviglia's father was in the 3I League the same year I was, way back in '55. Pat Sheridan's father, Art, was in Cedar Rapids. Dick Trzaskowski was there. A lot of us old-timers hung around a long time in the league. You're just starting out with Toledo.
And a liner to center for a base hit. Coles with a leadoff single. Tying run is on.
Well, when he hits out in that direction, He's able to wait just that split second longer. Veda Pinson has really helped Darnell Coles. If he can maintain a concentration level. Minor next here on NBC. Legends of Golf. See, Ralph Terry doesn't qualify for that, does he? He's in the senior circuit now. He turned 50.
Well, Ralph Terry and Ken Harrelson, contemporaries as American League ball players who briefly took a fling at the PGA Tour, each of them. Herndon doubled his last time up. He's 1 for 3. A ball low.
La Russa has his bullpen going.
And he's got Bob James up this time. Team record 32 saves in 1985.
We're talking about James, who has that great curveball, an outstanding fastball. Terry Cooney, American League umpire, was behind the plate one game. I believe he pitched in Milwaukee a few days ago and said that James was throwing as hard as Goose Gossage in his prime that day.
Check swing gets by Dawley, and the play from Cruz to Bonilla retires Herndon, and Coles moves on to second. Bonilla almost got caught out of position. He strayed a bit too far and had to hustle to get back to take Cruz's throw.
Bonilla can play the outfield. He played first base, forced into that with Greg Walker down. Julio Cruz looks to see if he can get the lead runner. Takes the sure one. Dave Duncan's going to make the trip now out to Dolly. Just to go over some scouting reports on Parrish. Dolly, of course, over from the National League. And they just want to keep fresh in the mind of Joel Skinner and Bill Dolly how they are going to pitch him, where they're going to play him. And buying a few extra pitches for Bob James also.
Parrish the next hitter, and Lemon will follow him, another right-handed batter. Then they get to Evans, who entered the game as a pinch hitter for Harper in the 7th and promptly homered to tie it. Dolly's pitch to Parrish. In the air to deep left. Fisk back at the fence. And Coles will hold at second.
Interesting how scouting reports and conferences can sometimes almost backfire. I would guess that Duncan came out and said to Dolly, okay, we don't want him to get his arms out. Start him out with a fastball up and in. He's been swinging at a lot of bad pitches. They've stuck with breaking balls most of the early part of this game with Parrish. So he aims the fastball up and in, almost out of the strike zone, and almost backfired on him. I think that might have been a waste pitch almost, just to try and jam him or have him swing through the ball, and he almost hit it out.
Lemon now, he's grounded out 3 straight times.
Infield now has moved back more with 2 outs. Tying run on second base. You want to knock anything down. Little things that go on in the ball game. Gujan usually plays a more shallow shortstop. He's moved back. Tollison at third has moved back, and Cruz is way deep at second base. Can see that little dribbler, the single, which won't score a run.
High for a ball, 1-1. (4-3) White Sox, bottom of the 8th. Called strike, and Lemon gave up on that one.
Tough slider. Really late breaking and very quick breaking.
Four more homers hit today at Tiger Stadium. 2 by Kittle, 1 by Baines, another by Evans of the Tigers, and Guillen can't get it. Here comes Coles. Fisk mishandles it, so any chance of cutting Coles down is gone, and the game is tied at 4. Coles running with the crack of the bat with 2 out. Fisk wouldn't have had much of a chance, even had he played it cleanly. So Lemon comes through with a game-tying single.
Dolly working from ahead in the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and he got a ball up again. Out over the plate, right where Lemon likes it. Fisk might have had a chance. He knew he had to charge it, may have overcharged it. Ball scooted beneath his glove.
You can't beat this. Ballpark like this, beautiful afternoon. A booth this close to the field, you can almost feel the game coming at you. And for the second straight day, a terrific game between these two clubs. Evans fouls the first one back. He was reiterating his story about the UFOs for us last night at the batting cage. When playing for the Giants, he and his wife, Sue, saw a UFO, at least they think they did, land on a little knoll, a suburb outside San Francisco. Flashing lights, hovering out there. He swears by it. Says it sat there for about 15 minutes.
Darrell immediately called Pops, who worked for NASA, and said, Pops, you won't believe what I just saw.
You play long enough at Candlestick Park, you'll start to hallucinate. He swears it was true. The 1-1 pitch. 2-1.
Watched it go over the hills behind his home. Should call Mr. Hynek from the International UFO Foundation. Give him a report.
He says he got a letter from that guy. Wanted all the details of the sighting.
Good hitter's pitch. Whoa, he just got under.
Had a pitch he could handle and didn't quite get it. Cangelosi in front of Baines. And we'll go to the 9th, tied at 4. RBI single by Lemon, evened it again in the 8th. Well, now I need to correct myself on a key detail of this Darrell Evans UFO sighting. His wife's name is not Sue, and where I got that idea, I don't know. His wife's name actually is LaDonna. But nonetheless, he and LaDonna insist that they saw a craft from another galaxy. Darrell strikes me as an extremely well-balanced, even-keel kind of guy, an articulate, bright fella.
Candlestick will do it to you, as you said.
As we go to the 9th, Reed Nichols, former Red Sox, comes off the bench, right-handed hitter, and he'll bat for Guillen. And he'll take an off-speed pitch for a strike. They got him from the Red Sox for Tim Lawler a year ago. Julio Cruz next. Soft fly ball into right field, and it's Sheridan. Out in the 9th.
There are certain screwball pitchers that some managers believe are more hittable by left-handed hitters if it's a left-handed pitcher because it takes the screwball away. Some felt that about Louis Arroyo. Even Tug McGraw late in his career when he wasn't throwing quite as hard. It's not hard, but it's not true with a guy like Hernandez because he's got such other good breaking stuff, slider and curve, and also a lot of action on his fastball.
Cruz bats now from the right side. We mentioned all the switch hitters on the Chicago roster, 7 of them. They've got 2 good prospects at the AA level at Birmingham, and they're both switch hitters. A third baseman named Dave Cochran that Harrelson just raves about. Terrific power. And Carl Yastrzemski's son, Mike, who was cut loose by the Atlanta organization, and the White Sox can't figure out why. He's a switch-hitting outfielder, and they feel he's a legitimate prospect, Mike Yastrzemski. 1-1 pitch. 1-2.
Something is wrong with Hernandez. He just winced again. I don't know if it's the lower back bothering him again, but after he threw that pitch, he had trouble coming back out of the crouch of his follow-through. Taking more time between pitches now.
Holds off, and it's 2-2. Rodney Craig, another switch hitter, is in the on-deck circle, and they haven't used Jerry Hairston yet, their best pinch swinger. Got him on strikes. Watch Willie Hernandez.
Don't know if you can tell it on every pitch. Over the top with a screwball. See, now he grabbed his left knee right there. Not as much. It wasn't as apparent as a couple of other pitches before that. Last inning one and earlier in this series to Cruz.
Strike 1 to Rodney Craig. Batting for the catcher, Joel Skinner. La Russa has said that Carlton Fisk will not start a game at catcher all season, but he could use him and says he will on occasion late in the game or in extra innings. Now Craig, who's batting for Skinner here, can play the outfield. So it's possible that Craig could go to left and Fisk could come in and catch. Reed Nichols can also play the outfield, and he used him as a pinch hitter earlier in the inning for Guillen. 1-2.
If he's hurt, he hasn't lost a whole lot of his fastball, if anything. I haven't really seen him throw the screwball yet since he winced last inning. Stuck pretty much with hard stuff. I think it's his lower back. Problem that he had last year. He hurt it going after a ball up at Exhibition Stadium.
Two out, nobody on. Top of the ninth, 1-2 pitch.
There's a
He went around and he's gone.
What a beautiful screw. He throws a couple of different kinds.
2 strikeouts for Hernandez in the top of the ninth. The Tigers have a chance to win it in the bottom half with Sheridan, Whitaker, and Collins coming up.
Bottom of the ninth, 4-4 ball game. Brian Little goes on to play shortstop as Ozzie Guillen was pinch hit for. New catcher Mark Hill catching Dolly.
And Sheridan drills one at Bonilla, who goes down and gets up to record the putout.
There's an example of playing percentage baseball. Bonilla told by Tony La Russa, stay on the line, 4-4 ball game. We're in the ninth, take the double away. He takes the double away and a base hit from Sheridan. Standing right on the first base line. Some will disagree with that strategy. Sure worked that time. Point to remember, though at third base, Tollison was not guarding the line for Sheridan. He was playing in the shortstop hole.
Whitaker had a pinch hit double in his only plate appearance. Bottom of the ninth, tied at 4. And a ball low and inside from Dolly. Does it surprise you that James hasn't been called upon? I know they prefer to use him with a lead, but here we are.
Well, he pitched last night. Not a whole lot, but he did.
Long drive to right field, and he didn't get all of it, and Baines actually lopes in a few steps and makes the catch. He had started back toward the track.
Bob, you'd mentioned the last couple of years how Lou Whitaker, who hit left-handers so well up until 2 years ago, having trouble against left-handers, didn't start today. Part of the reason is he's more home run conscious, hitting over 20 home runs last year. Not many second basemen have done that. Dick McAuliffe, of course, Charlie Gehringer, but trying to pull the ball more. It's hurt him against left-handed pitchers.
In fact, the 21 homers he hit in '85 are a record for a Tiger second baseman. 2 quick outs in the bottom of the ninth. Collins takes a ball. James has quit throwing, and he's just standing and watching from the bullpen.
There's a situation where your outfield defense should change a little bit on Collins. You know he doesn't drive the ball well. You want to play a little deeper so he can't get the ball over your head to get in scoring position in this 4-4 game, especially with 2 outs. You move your outfielders back a little bit so they can cut the gaps and don't get beaten over their heads. Keep them out of scoring position.
As was the case for Sheridan. Bonilla right on the line at first, and Tollison off the line at third, and Collins showed the bunt and took a ball inside. 2-1. Three balls and a strike. Collins has stolen only 1 base so far this year, but you know that he has an excellent track record in that department. They don't want to put him on in this situation.
Well, he's had a bad knee, and he also fouled the ball off his right instep from spring training. He's not running like he did last year or the year before. His legs are hurting. See if he can try it now with Trammell. If Trammell may take a pitch, try and give him a chance to steal.
A 2-out single by Collins is the 12th hit for the Tigers. The White Sox have 7, but 3 of their 7 are homers. Trammell is 1 for 4.
Here comes Tony La Russa. He's got Bob James ready with that great fastball and outstanding curve. Assume he's going to make the move in this 4-4 ball game. Yep. He's already set the signal down to Mo Grabowski.
So that does it for Dolly with the potential winning run at first base and 2 out of the bottom of the ninth. In a 4-all game, here comes Bob James. Trammell steps in against Bob James. 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, and Collins chased back. James has a save in each of his last 3 appearances after a bad start. In his first 6 appearances, he was 0-1 and failed to come through in his first 4 save situations. He's righted himself now, though. Last year, a team record 32 saves, and he walked just 23 hitters in 110 innings pitched. Combine that with the fact that his career average is about a strikeout per inning worked. It's a terrific ratio. First one to Trammell. Inside and high.
Some say the key for Bob James, when he does not have that overpowering 95-mile-per-hour fastball, and he can't, as big as he is, have it every time out, is the breaking ball. He's got a good curve. If he gets it over, he'll buckle a lot of right-handed hitters' knees. He's very quick, as you see, for a big guy to first base. And he is a big guy, and carrying that weight around with the knee problem that he had last year, you wonder what his durability will be this year.
With the burly build, the blonde hair, the beard, he's a Greg Luzinski look-alike. Grounded hard and backhanded by Tollefson. Long throw. Got Trammell. So a fine play by Tollefson sends this one to extra innings, and for the 3rd week in a season that is just 3 Saturdays old, the game of the week on NBC goes to extra innings. What did we go? 14 in Philadelphia with Vin and Joe. 17 in Montreal last week. We're at it again. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek at Tiger Stadium in Detroit. We go to the 10th, tied at 4, and the 2 aces have the game in their hands right now. Bob James for the White Sox and Willie Hernandez for the Tigers.
Interesting to see the first 2 hitters, Cangelosi and Tollefson, a couple of switch hitters. They try and bunt. It'll bring Darnell Coles in tight, I know that. Cangelosi is an exciting young player. If he can hit 240, 250 and have a high on-base percentage, he's going to help this White Sox team.
And that's just about what he's doing now. 15 walks for the season. The on-base percentage is over 400. The batting average around 240 coming in.
Well, he can steal. He'll get in scoring position in a hurry.
Fouls the first one back. Cangelosi, Tollefson, and Baines. The Mets and the Phillies played that wild ball game on NBC first Saturday of the year. Set an all-time record for most men left on base in a game. I think it went 14. A week ago, we sat at Fenway Park, White Sox and Red Sox. Never got on the air as the first game of what was supposed to be a doubleheader. Cardinals and Expos went 17 innings. Jay Randolph and Joe Morgan worked overtime. Cardinals eventually won it in 17. Can Cangelosi go? You bet. 1-2.
Like Fernando Valenzuela and most pitchers who have complete mastery of the screwball, Hernandez will throw one that goes straight down, one that will run away from the right-handed hitter. He will throw it at several different speeds. That wasn't his hard one yet. He may throw that now.
Not hit well, but hit in a good place. A little soft line drive, and Cangelosi with the speed has a leadoff double.
Don't have an official count, but at least 3 or 4 times in key situations, pitchers have been ahead of hitters, 0-2 or 1-2 in this ball game, and given up a base hit. Hernandez threw a ball that almost bounced to Cangelosi the pitch before he went after. This screwball wasn't a bad one, but he got it up a little bit. The little guy stuck with it.
And now, taking no chances with the signs, Doug Rader comes down out of the third base coach's box and talks with Wayne Tollefson.
And out comes Sparky Anderson to run by a few trick plays. The bunt situation. Is he going to have Coles charging? And Trammell coming to third, which would be awfully difficult to do with Cangelosi with that speed. He could beat his shortstop to third base. Is he going to try and pick off? Sparky just wants to make certain. You can see with the rule the way it is in the American League, where you can have one infielder, a catcher, and a manager along with a pitcher. New little gimmick that's come out as we look at Cangelosi. The other infielders come in, but they don't come on the dirt surface.
And they just speak loudly.
Yep.
Why did it take so long to think of that? That isn't the most subtle maneuver.
I don't know. Well, heck, you coached down at Toledo. Why don't you find those little things out?
I tried to bring some fresh, creative ideas to our national pastime, but my stay was too brief with the Hens.
For a left-handed pitcher, if you get the ball down the third base line, you know that's the direction that Hernandez is falling off and will be breaking. You almost want to bunt to first base.
Tollefson is sent spinning away.
The one thing you want your pitcher to do, and that was it. try and bust the fastball up and in, try and get the pop-up, or at least the foul off. That pitch wasn't that close to him. And just leaning out over the plate with a head in the strike zone.
Baines and Kittle are waiting. Baines on deck and Kittle to follow.
They will probably have Hernandez and Evans try and cover the entire area in front of home plate.
2-0 now. With Hernandez and James in the ball game, each bullpen is quiet. Nobody throwing for either team.
Interesting to see if, and I suspect this, that Willie Hernandez is having some lower back problems, how well he'll be able to get off the mound. In the event he's still bunting, which I think he is.
Takes a strike, 2-1. We're in the top half of the 10th. 4-8-1 for the White Sox. 4-12-1 for the Tigers.
Always got to be aware of Tony La Russa putting a switch on and letting him hit. It's funny.
Fouls it back. So let's see if they keep the bunt on with 2 strikes now.
I would down. Doug Rader, the former Rangers manager. Sometimes they could have a hit on. Tollison could bunt on his own. I think he's going to be swinging.
Angelosi at second with nobody out. Swinging away and striking out.
What a job of pitching Hernandez did after falling behind.
It's the 4th strikeout for Hernandez since he entered in the 8th. Now he'll have to face Baines and Kittle. When he came in, Baines was the first man he faced in the 8th inning. With Tollison at first and nobody out, Baines tried to surprise with a bunt, and Hernandez got the force at second. But the next man, Kittle, hit his 2nd homer of the game. In the dirt for a ball. That gave the White Sox a 4-3 lead. Briefly, Chet Lemon tied it up with a base hit in the bottom half of the 8th, an RBI single, and that's where we stand now in the 10th, 4-4.
Few guys in the American League that a manager loved to have up there other than Harold Baines. That's why.
Whitaker to his left makes a good play and throws Baines out. Angelosi to third with 2 down.
A tall grass just killed it. Looked like it had a chance to sneak through. Whitaker was playing Baines up the middle, playing him straight away. Hernandez pulled the string on a breaking ball, and the grass slowed it up. Whitaker and Trammell in the middle of the diamond are as good at and adept as positioning as anybody. Neither has brilliant speed.
The fielders have been able to relax with Kittle at the plate today. Struck out twice, homered twice. Grounded to third. Coles has time. High throw, but Evans hauls it in and stays on the bag. Angelosi opens with a double. He's stranded at third, as it turns out. We go to the bottom of the 10th. Still tied at 4. The shadows creep halfway across the pitcher's mound at Tiger Stadium. Moving past 4 in the afternoon and moving to the bottom of the 10th. Darnell Coles, Larry Herndon, and Lance Parrish, the scheduled hitters.
Sparky Anderson, Tony La Russa. Sparky doesn't want to extend Willie Hernandez too far in this ball game, so he's got his bullpen up. La Russa's got his ace there. He doesn't want to push him too far either this early in the season.
One of the
nice
greatest,
warm day, so nice to pitch in.
One of the greatest players Sparky Anderson ever had, seated off to our left. Johnny Bench will work the game tomorrow for ABC with Don Drysdale. Sparky says now in retrospect, I let him catch too much. I should have given him more days off, maybe played him at first base occasionally. Of course, with that old Reds club and no DH in the National League, every position was manned by an all-star, so what are you going to do? There's no place to move a guy you want to rest. You just got to sit him.
Sparky not a big lover of the DH, but he said it will give me a chance to do with Parrish, DH him, or play him at first base, but especially DH him, something I could not do with Bench.
2-1 pitch to Coles. 3 balls and a strike to Coles, leading off in the bottom of the 10th. How does it affect the team? Or is it just media hype? When a manager appears to be on the ropes and all that speculation is in the newspapers, does it have some kind of psychological effect where guys say, I'm not going to have to put out as much for this guy as I ordinarily would? He might not be here so long.
I think if it smolders much longer, it might have an effect. But I think really, Tony La Russa is a very feisty guy, as everybody knows by now. He's very outspoken, very candid.
Shallow right, Baines. 1 out.
But I think that the players on the White Sox team have a deep, abiding respect for his baseball ability, his approach man-to-man, how he tells them what he expects. They may not like it, but I think there's a deep respect for Tony La Russa by his players. I think players now, to answer your question more directly, realize it's the nature of the game. If the team is losing, the old thing, you can't fire 25 players, the manager's going to go. 24 these days.
James to Herndon for ball 1. La Russa realizes it's the nature of the game, too. I asked him about it last week in Boston. He said it's legitimate, all this speculation. I understand it's part of the job, and I also understand that some criticism of me is well taken. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Now, that's a fairly candid comment. You don't hear that sort of thing that often. He says, look, I have read post-game criticisms of moves that I've made, and I've said, if I don't agree with that 100%, at least I see that point of view. It's arguably true. Hit to short. Little, who replaced Guillen, throws Herndon out.
One of Tony La Russa's great defenders is Raleigh Heeman. Now that the Hawk has become executive vice president, Hawk Harrelson. Heeman, some thought, saved La Russa's job at least once or twice before. Raleigh Heeman could any day now, it could be announced, end up in the Commissioner of Baseball's office. Executive capacity there.
Well, Jerry Reinsdorf, one of the 2 principal owners, along with Eddie Einhorn, was quoted only a year ago as saying, I don't know of a better manager than Tony La Russa. But strange things happen. Parrish, with 2 out on the bottom of the 10th, takes a ball.
So far, Bob James has not had his crackling fastball, not throwing it that hard. Don Drysdale worked with him on a changeup this spring, the old Dodger chain, where you pull the shade down. That's the technique they talk about, that dead front leg kind of change, but they said it hurt James' arms, or he did, so he stopped throwing it. He didn't throw the ball that hard yet, and this is a great pitch for Parrish right here.
The 2-0 is a called strike, 2-1. Parrish had 28 homers a year ago, a career-high 33 the season before that, so he can end it right here if he gets his pitch.
He won't end it if James makes pitches like this.
Boy, right on the outside corner at the knees. Hit in the air to left center field. Cangelosi. We go to the 11th. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Willie Hernandez worked 3 innings, and that's all. Bill Campbell, last season with St. Louis, Phillies prior to that. The guy with the herky-jerky motion, he comes out of the bullpen for the 11th.
Slider, curve, sinker, also a screwball. He's been sidelined recently, not disabled. He's had some elbow tenderness, so this will be his first appearance for Sparky Anderson in some time. They got him to set up Hernandez. They were afraid the middle relief was not going to be very sound with O'Neill and Carey, 2 youngsters. They wanted a veteran down there. And they thought this high grass would help him, too. He keeps the ball down well.
The Cardinal bullpen is so deep, there was no place for him anymore with Whitey Herzog's team. Here's Fisk. He singled in his first appearance, hitless in 3 trips since then. Top of the 11th. 4-4 the score, and strike 1 from Campbell.
Just before that pitch was thrown, somebody yelled from the bench of the White Sox, Boots Day keeps the charts upstairs, the defense for the Detroit Tigers, former major leaguer, and he moved Darnell Coles in thinking that Fisk might just drop a bunt down. He does that a dozen times a year, tries to get a base hit, start something going.
That one drops tantalizingly through the strike zone, 0-2.
Now with 2 strikes, Coles moves back at third base.
If somebody gets on against Campbell, how easy is he to run against with that motion? I know he modifies it out of the stretch, but it's still somewhat elongated.
Well, sometimes the pitcher, and Campbell's one, he's an outstanding athlete. He is very quick to home plate, and if he reads a base stealer, and of course, White Sox Fisk, he's not an authentic base stealer. He can unload home in a hurry. People wonder why games have taken longer over the last couple of years. They're starting to take longer in the American League now. More and more throws over to first base. At 10, 15 minutes sometimes to games.
Back in the 20s, the Hall of Fame pitcher Ted Lyons pitched a no-hitter for the White Sox against the Red Sox. The game took 1 hour and 7 minutes. The all-time record, 51 minutes. Game between the Giants and Phillies. Also in the early 20s, as I recall. Not from first-hand knowledge. It's low, and the count is full.
As Campbell, a middler, he just is not going to give in to a hitter, especially a power hitter with a wind blow out to left field like Fisk. So sinkers, sliders, 2-2 pitch. The last one was a little bit of a sidearm breaking ball. And he still won't give in. Anything high in the air is going to get pushed out to left field.
Payoff. He walked him, and it brings up Bonilla. We mentioned this earlier. You cannot take Fisk for granted. He stole 17 bases last year.
You would think with Bonilla up from the left side, this may be a bunt situation, but remember, Little is hitting next, then Cruz, and they are not run producers, so La Russa may let him hit away and try and pull the ball through that gap between Whitaker and Evans. I would.
Outside, ball one.
Look at the gap. Whitaker playing more up the middle for Bonilla than guarding the hole. Outfield about straight away. Bonilla, a young player who knows his job. Pull the ball if you can.
There goes Fisk. Swing and a miss. Throw from Parrish. He stole it.
That high leg kick you talked about just a moment ago. A hit and run, and with Bonilla hitting from the left side on that swing, he falls into the throwing path of Parrish. No interference, not intentional, makes him throw over the top. And the ball rides a little bit high, but Fisk would have had it stolen anyway.
Now the assignment for Bonilla is clearer still. Pull the ball, get it on the ground to the right side if you can.
Campbell will probably run something away. Fastballs, but he has the option to drag bunt on his own.
He doesn't drag. He squares the straight-out sacrifice, and he's going to be safe. Campbell thought about a play at third, and I don't think he had much of a chance
I thought
there.
He had him. We disagree, but Campbell is such a good athlete. I thought he made a good throw, but he made a very fundamental mistake. Something that he knows. He's been in the big leagues for more than a dozen years. He tries to pick the ball up when it's still rolling with his glove hand and just squashes it into the turf. Now Sparky says, boys, come on in. Billy Muffet to the left of your screen, the pitching coach. It's been tough for Billy Muffet. He's had to replace Roger Craig, retired for 1 year, now managing San Francisco. And a guy with outstanding bat control, Brian Little. Great bunter.
The ruling is sacrifice for Bonilla, error for Campbell. And Little, who replaced Gujan at shortstop, bats with first and third and nobody out. Top of the 11th.
So that's tough, you know, an error. I can see why they might think of it, but if he comes up throwing, it's a bang-bang play at third, a tag play. How's he going to throw all the way back to first base from right on the third base line and get Bonilla batting from the left side?
Campbell from the stretch to Little. Inside. It's an attractive situation on the right side of the diamond for Little. Not only is Whitaker pulled in at second base, but Evans is holding Bonilla. He hits anything hard in that direction, it's got a heck of a chance to go through.
And Little from the left side is a pull hitter. They pitch him inside so much, he doesn't hit the ball with authority, but he pulls most everything.
Shallow center field, not deep enough. Lemon chugging in.
Nobody at second.
Makes the catch. Now Whitaker covers second, but Lemon runs it back into the infield.
Good coaching by Eddie Brinkman. He had Bonilla come back to first base. In the event that a throw is launched from short center field by Lemon, Bonilla would have kept on going and gone to second base. So Brinkman, you could almost hear him yelling from up here, come on back, tag up in case he lets loose a throw. Jerry Hairston's going to pinch hit now, one of the premier pinch hitters in the game.
Yet another White Sox switch hitter, Hairston off the bench. He had 14 pinch hits a year ago, leading the American League in that department for the 3rd consecutive season. Tiger fans remember Hairston because he's the guy who spoiled Milt Wilcox's bid for a perfect game at Comiskey Park. 1983 season, I think. 83 or early 84 with a 2-out single in the 9th. Wilcox had a perfect game with 2 out in the 9th.
And if I'm scratching out the bench players correctly with this 24-man roster, Tony La Russa, after Harrison, and he's been announced, he's a pinch hitter, will have just Tim Hewlett left on his bench.
Our crack stat man Steve Horn tells me it was 1983 when Hairston broke Wilcox's heart with the hit in the 9th. So Fisk at 3rd and Bonilla at 1st with 1 out now in the 11th. And the infield back for the DP.
I'd be surprised if the runner isn't started here. 1 out. Hairston gets his bat on the ball, and they're trying to find out that. That play is so old now. Doug Bird started that way back with the Kansas City Royals years ago. It's caught on, but they were just trying to find out if Bonilla was going to be on the move. Hit and run was in order.
Not going, and a called strike.
Steve Busby also did that play well for Kansas City.
Hairston at the plate, and Mark Hill, who replaced Joel Skinner at catcher, is the on-deck hitter. Campbell, the veteran. Great years with Minnesota and then with the Red Sox, on to the Cubs, the Phillies, and Cardinals. 1-1. He was one of the early free agents following the '76 season, went from the Twins to the Red Sox, and before developing arm problems, he was one of baseball's great relievers in the mid-'70s.
Here's where a catcher has to be very, very alert and on his toes. With that screwball, you can't afford to let it bound by you and let that run score off 3rd.
Check swing foul, 1-2.
Parrish is well aware of it. Campbell will get hitters out, and screwballs that bounce in the dirt. Parrish has become a very agile catcher. He is a very strong lower body. Blocks pitches well. Everybody knows how he throws.
I'd say the upper body looks fairly sturdy, too. That's those 3 National Leaguers he threw out trying to steal in the All-Star game a few years ago. About his arm and his overall defensive capabilities. 3 Gold Gloves to his credit.
Parrish keeps glancing over to Sparky Anderson, seeing if he wants to pitch out.
1-2 pitch. In the air to right field, and this looks deep enough. Sheridan back.
Got a good arm.
Here comes his throw to the plate with Fisk trying to score, and he's in there. Sheridan did everything right. He charged the ball as he made the catch, unloaded his throw, but it was just a bit too deep. And Fisk, as we've mentioned, is faster than you would think a catcher, which he has been all of his career until this season, would be.
Watch the position he gets, battling his son, which is tough at this time of year. In the right fielder's eyes, he gets position. And give that run to Pudge Fisk. He could not have played a better inning offensively. He walked, he stole 2nd. He got a good jump on the sacrifice, got to 3rd ahead of the throw, or forced an error on Campbell. And then he scores in the sac flies. Proves you do not have to have blazing speed to be an outstanding base runner. Fisk just showed you.
Mark Hill for his first at-bat. He caught the game last night for the White Sox, who lead it now 5-4 in the 11th. Bottom half of the inning, Lemon, Evans, and Sheridan. All of whom can reach the seats, especially here, especially the left-handed batters.
I think it's interesting. Hawk Harrelson going out, get some speed. Cangelosi, Tollison. You think those would be the players who would manufacture the run, and who does it? The old-timer, Pudge Fisk.
Line drive caught by Evans. Hill consciously took a shot at that side, but he hit it right at Evans. The damage is done. A run is across in the 11th.
This is Marv Albert in New York. The Mets made it 8 straight wins, beating the Cardinals 4-3, concluding with this shot off the bat of Terry Pendleton. Wally Backman with an outstanding play. The Mets get 2 to end it. Cards have lost 6 in a row. Back to Bob and Tony.
Julio Cruz was pinch hit for, and Jerry Hairston delivered the sacrifice fly for the go-ahead run. Now Tim Hewlett comes in to play second base, and all the position players have been used by Tony La Russa. He has pitchers left, but no position players, as Lemon fouls one back on James' first pitch at the bottom of the 11th.
I think this ball game shows the kind of managerial ability that Tony La Russa has. He got just enough out of Floyd Bannister. Even though he may have hurt his knee, the report we got, he babied it along, got him through 1 inning. Schmidt, even though he got hit a little bit, got enough from him, and then got enough from Dolly to get to his stopper, James, for a few innings. Russa's managed an outstanding job. Today, no tell what'll happen, but if he does get fired, rumors keep going on, he'll have a job, maybe not this year, but in the near future.
Off-speed pitch drops in for a strike, going 2 to Lemon.
If they win this ball game, the White Sox, that's 4 in a row, isn't it? After a rough start, boy, they still got a ways to go to get back up to 500. They went in 5 wins, 10 losses today.
Bounce to third. It's Tollison. 1 out. Folks, this doesn't mean we're giving up on the Tigers. Little business to take care of. Major League Baseball Game of the Week brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there's only one light beer. By Honda Power Equipment, lawnmowers, lawn tractors, and portable generators made to last. By Armor All, it's the finishing touch every time you wash your car. And by AC Delco, the smart parts. Evans has been at the plate twice. He's homered as a pinch hitter and then flied to center. Takes a strike. The White Sox scored what could be the winning run without benefit of a hit in the top of the 11th. Fisk worked a walk on a 3-2 pitch, stole second, took third when Bonilla sacrificed, and Campbell kicked the ball, and Bonilla was safe at first. This one is fouled down the right field line, and it looks like it's going to stay in. Bonilla is there, 2 out. So with runners at first and third, Brian Little was then the hitter for the White Sox. He flied to shallow center. The runners held. Hairston batted for Cruz, and his fly ball to Sheridan in right was deep enough for Fisk to tag and score to make it 5-4. If the score holds up, this week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Ron Kittle, who had 2 home runs for the White Sox. Miller Lite is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Ron Kittle to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Ball one high to Sheridan, who made his Tiger debut with an RBI double last night.
May I give a gold star to Pudge Fisk for his base running and that walk in the 11th? Walk, stolen base, getting to third, scoring on the sac fly.
Consider it done.
Thank you, sir. The little things that win and lose ball games. Home runs very apparent.
A drive into left center with Fisk in pursuit, and Fisk will grab it.
He's got good instincts out there. He didn't spend all that time behind home plate not learning how to play almost every position. He makes a nice running catch with that wind blowing it away.
So the victory goes to Bob James, and the loss to Bill Campbell out of the Tiger bullpen. The White Sox have won 4 in a row, taking the first 2 games of this series. For Tony Kubek and for our stat man Steve Horn, I'm Bob Costas. From Tiger Stadium in Detroit, we bid you good afternoon and ask you to stay tuned for the Legends of GOW. Coming up next, in 11 innings, the White Sox win a fine ball game 5-4. See you next week.